All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. I hope you're all having a great weekend here. Thanks so much for tuning in and hanging out here on this Sunday night. So like all the other usual live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours or so. I'll give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member. They always get that priority answering, and they have those green usernames there. And so I see we have a bunch of people already joined in here. So we have Brian, Theodore, Kyle, Grand, Michelle, Cars, Danny, Anthony, and so I see Brian says, good evening. How's your weekend going? It's been a good weekend. It's been action-packed, busy, but fun and really good. We went to a concert on Friday, and then we did an amusement park today. So it's been an action-packed day, but a lot of fun for sure. Hope you've been doing well too, Brian. And hello, Kyle, as well. And let me see. Danny says, hey, Matt, I posted the picture of my dog Jackson on the member car of the week in the comments. Hopefully you showed it to Beth. I don't think I saw that. So I'll have to check that out. Maybe I must have missed that one, but I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll definitely show it to her. And thanks for that, Danny. I didn't know you could comment with pictures. Unless is it just a link? Maybe, I don't know. I missed that, but I'll check it out. Thanks for letting me know. And he says, I'm going to have a crazy week due to me doing marching band, karate, and having a high school football game this Friday. This is all in this week. Yeah, I feel you on that. I have a very, very busy week ahead. I'm going to be reviewing more cars this week in this 1 week than it's like usually what I would do in about a month. I'm going to be doing in 1 week. So I'm right there with you. It's going to be crazy for me, but hope you can get through all your stuff. One day at a time, put one foot in front of the other, and we'll get through it all together. But best of luck to you as well, Danny. Cara says, I've been seeing a Hyundai Ioniq 5 outside my workplace pretty frequently, so I think that someone in that neighborhood probably owns one. Cool car. Nice. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of them around here, especially now they've been doing these insane lease deals. I feel like I see them popping up a lot more than I have in the past, and it's always good to see one of those because they look so cool. Wheatman says, good evening, Matt, and happy Sunday. And A Silva, thanks so much for rejoining here, and looking forward to chatting with you as well tonight. Danny says just a link. Okay, well, thanks for that, Danny. I'll check it out. And Luke says, I test drove the Honda Ridgeline RTL. I thought the sound system was pretty bad, but I've heard in forums the Black Edition sound system is a little bit better. They used to do like a higher stereo for upper trims of the Ridgeline. I didn't know if they still did that or not. But yeah, any of the non-branded Honda stereos that haven't been upgraded, like, in the Civics and stuff, you now get Bose. But the Ridgeline still is that dated platform, and so it just has dated stuff. So there's no branded upgrade. Not like you need a branded upgrade, but yeah, the regular Honda stereos are not that great in the past. So yeah, that is definitely a downside. I mean, if you're shopping mid-sized trucks, I wouldn't say any of them are fantastic. I was actually pretty impressed with the new Ford Ranger stereo, which you'll hear me talk about here this fall when I finally post that review. But yeah, I'd say the Ranger is probably one of the better ones that I've experienced, because even like that JBL stereo in the new Tacoma is fine, but not amazing. Honestly, if you want a really good stereo, you're better off going for the GMC Canyon, because that has a Bose, and that's actually pretty good too. But yeah, Ridgeline stereo is not that great. I'll have to ask my friend, because my friend has a Ridgeline, and he hasn't complained about it that I'm aware of in his, but everyone has different standards for stereos too. And Cam, thanks for stopping by too. He says hi, and Joel saying hello as well. And yeah, thanks, Joel. Hope you had a good weekend too. And Alex is saying hi as well. Thanks for stopping by, Alex. And looking forward to chatting with you here in the live stream too. Goodstick says, do you want the new Aston Martin DB12 or Vanquish in the new James Bond movie, if and when it comes out? I'm hoping they put the new Vanquish in. That would be cool for sure. I mean, it's a really good partnership, so I'm sure they will continue it. It just comes down to, what car do they want to use. But I think it makes sense to use the Vanquish. I actually just this week was reading a new article about whatever upcoming James Bond movie. There seems like there's rumors that are pretty solid about who it is that's going to be the new James Bond. And there's also talk that they could actually be starting to begin production sometime towards the end of this year here. So we'll have to see. It's all, of course, very secretive and all that. So who knows, when it's actually coming, but it'd be really great if I was actually expecting more of a longer wait. But you will see if they actually are able to get something out. Typically, I think it's like what 4 to 5 years between every Bond movie. So we're coming up on what, like 3 or 4 here, depending on how you want to judge, since No Time to Die filmed in 2019, but then COVID pushed it back, over a year. So I don't know, but anyway, I won't go into my James Bond fan tangents here, but I'm hoping Vanquish makes it, and that'd be cool. Dylan says, won't really be able to watch consistently tonight, have some work to do, but to make it bearable, I'll be sipping on some Blatons. Cheers and have fun. Well, best of luck to you. Sorry you have to do some work here on a Sunday night, but thanks for stopping by, Dylan. Danny says, my aunt out in Washington owns a first-gen Nissan Leaf, and the battery degradation is crazy, and she's looking at replacing it. She doesn't want a Tesla. Pretty much from a battery standpoint, anything outside of a Leaf is going to be better from a battery degradation standpoint, because that's, I think, the only one on the market that is air cooled and doesn't have, the liquid cooling, and that's what really hurts the life of those batteries, which is a shame. That Nissan didn't find a way to upgrade that at some point, in the Leaf's life. Now, next gen Leaf's going to almost certainly, kind of just be on a smaller version of the Aria platform, and that'll be fine. But Leaf isn't great with degradation, especially first gen. There is still, that's truly like, beta testing almost level, very early days for EVs. So not a great amount of battery, non-degradation on those. But basically anything else will be better. So hopefully she can find, don't get another Nissan Leaf. Second gen has the same problem. So but best of luck with her search, and all kinds of good stuff out there these days, especially. Raphael, thanks for stopping by. Nicholas says, listening from my 86 to use the AC because it's 106 in San Diego right now. Hope everyone stayed cool this week. Man, that's crazy. Well, that's awesome. You're listening in the 86 there, and hopefully you enjoy the stream here, but stay cool out there. It's actually been strangely cooled here, not to make you jealous, but it's been like high 60s. It's been really like fully fall here. It kind of transitioned pretty early this year with the fall temps, but I'm excited about it. I love fall. It's arguably probably my favorite season, so I'm very excited, but sorry about the high temps there. Luke says, I test drove the Frontier, and the Fender sound system was incredible. Nice. I'm glad you liked it. I can't remember. It didn't leave a big impression on me, but I don't remember it being, it was kind of just middle of the road from my recollection, but that's good that it sounded really good to you. It also comes down to your source and the kind of music you listen to, and different things as well. But and Bab says the sound system my MDX Advance is amazing. Is that one of the ones that did the Bang & Olufsen, or was that just, I can't remember what they used in those. It's been a few years. I know the Type S has the Bang & Olufsen one, but I don't remember if the regular MDX also switched or not. But I mean, MDX, I remember the stereo being really good in that. They're always really good. Acuras actually, in general, usually have really good stereos. Is maybe the ELS in that, in the MDX, right? That's what it is. Those are the ELS ones are some of my favorite stereos, actually. They're really impressive. Even back to the RDX of this generation when it first came out, I was blown away by the stereo in those two. Raphael says, I missed Beth last week. I only managed 20 minutes before I was too sick to stay awake. Oh, sorry to hear that, Raphael. Hopefully you're feeling better this week. I'm hoping, and it's been going around a lot. I know. I'm hearing everyone is getting sick left and right, and knock on all the wood. am not sick. Hopefully I won't get sick, because I'm so busy all the time that I can't afford, because I'm always talking, and it's like, everyone else can just take off a sick day or a few sick days, and life goes on with their business or whatever. But for me, it's all on me and my ability to talk. And, that's one reason why I definitely got to play it safe when it comes to getting sick, because I can't afford to. And Sailman, thank you so much for a super chat. They're saying, planning on buying a 96 Camaro T-top. Do you think Camaro will come back? Well, that's exciting. Hope the sale goes well and they're able to get that, for a good deal there. That's awesome. I think Camaro will come back. I think that Chevy has too much equity there with, names just being so valuable these days to car companies. I feel like that's not one they're going to let die. Now, will they do the Camaro justice? That is a whole nother question, and I think a lot foggier of a future. I think Camaro will come back in some form. The rumors I think typically I've seen have been electric four-door sedan for Camaro in the future. But with Chevy, anything's possible. It could be a SUV, it could be a minivan for that matter. I mean, who knows? But hopefully it will be something cool. But it sounds like it's going to be a while to wait. They have other fish to fry here, and other things they're worried about right now. So, and I mean, it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that it could come back with a V8, because they did commit to that for C9 Corvette. So if they have it around in a sports application, it's just a matter of platform and how they justify it. If we don't see a new Cadillac, CT5 and CT4, then that would mean you won't have an evolution of the Alpha chassis anymore. So you got to put on something else. And they don't really have a whole lot else, car wise, because they don't make cars anymore. So that's really the tough thing. Is it would have to be a bespoke thing, which will make it expensive, and then you might as well just go and buy a Corvette if you're going to buy something that's that expensive anyway. So that's the problem, which is why I think it's not so much that they couldn't keep the V8 around, but they couldn't keep the platform around, most likely. So I think Corvette will continue with the V8, and that will be the one for Chevy fans that want a V8. Unfortunately, it will become a more luxurious, expensive thing, with being a Corvette only thing. But I think Camaro most likely will be some type of four-door electric performance thing, but that's kind of what I'm expecting. I'd love to be wrong and have it be something wild, but I'm sure it'll still be wild even if it's electric. But that's my current thoughts on most likely what's going to happen, but anything's possible. And thank you again, Sailman, for the super chat. And let me see. Danny says, my dad's first car was a 90s generation Buick Skylark, and my grandparents bought from $4,500 bucks used in the 90s, and it was a crap box. Water pump broke twice. Head had to be rebuilt. 90s GM quality. Yeah, it seems like it's really hit or miss with some of the GM stuff in the 90s, because I've seen other people that have put hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles on a lot of these GM vehicles that are really solid. And then others, just are terrible. So it's unfortunate. Those Skylarks, though, I always thought were cool. But it's a shame that didn't hold up for your grandparents there. And A Silva says, looking forward to the new Mazda CX-50 hybrid. Official pricing should be coming soon. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it too. I wish they would have given us more info whenever they debuted it. Because there was I think 2 or 3 pictures. I talked about the weekly update, but there wasn't a whole lot to cover there just yet. But I'm hoping, we get more info on that soon. Surprisingly, I haven't heard anything from Mazda about that. I would have assumed there were going to be a drive program, but I don't think there's going to be anything, or at least I haven't seen anything yet. If pricing's coming out soon, I'm guessing they should be arriving at dealers then relatively soon. But again, I'm completely in the dark. I know nothing about any of that stuff. But I'm excited for it. I mean, because I think what the press release was suggesting is that it's going to be the RAV4 hybrid powertrain, basically, which is a great powertrain. So putting it in the CX-50 in a nicer package, in my opinion, over the RAV4 is great. So I'm looking forward to that. Two, thanks so much for joining for the very generous super chat as well. He says, y'all just missed it. The greatest battle going on. It's insane. 2 men in the basement screaming their own names. Sounds like a Pokemon battle. It's insane. Back and forth screaming. Am I right, Peter? And Superworks fan. And and two, by the way, if you're not in the Discord server, if you're a member and you're not in the Discord server, two dropped 2 awesome. I'm not sure how he did it. I'm not sure if it's it's full production or if it's some AI assistance or what, but he did 2 different rap tracks about the channel and myself. And one of them is even a roast, which was fantastic. And I think I'm actually going to post, he sent me that one. Is a video file. I think I'm going to post that as a members only video. And it's really funny. So I'm happy to see you in here too. Thanks for keeping us all laughing, and I'll be posting that for the members here soon. And hope you're doing well as well too. Let me see other questions here. Good Six says, is Tesla a sports car or a fast appliance car? It's fast, but the steering is quick, but very vague. And also Tesla's increased focus on self-driving rather than performance. I think to me, Tesla, it's not a sports car. I mean, you could argue the Model 3 the performance models are performance cars. I think performance cars and sports cars are 2 different things. When I think sports car, I typically think something that's 2 doors, something a little more focused, that's not based on a regular vehicle and souped up, usually sports cars are purpose built for just that, one variant or whatever. So that's why I don't really view them as sports cars, but I'd say they are, performance cars in those terms. But I mean, even from a performance car standpoint, I often talk about this in my car reviews when I compare other performance EVs to the Tesla. I'm like, like Ioniq 5N, for example, way more handling hardware than Model 3 performance, way more brakes, way more time on the Nürburgring, like, all these things just to really, fine tune all that stuff. And I mean, Tesla, has their track mode now and a few other things, but it's, to me, the Tesla handling package has always been kind of a half-hearted approach in my opinion of it. I mean, I haven't tracked them or tested them extensively, so I'm not saying this from like a evaluation standpoint, just from in marketing and a kind of armchair expert kind of standpoint. It just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot there. The brakes aren't huge. They don't have any kind of crazy suspension stuff going on. You don't really hear a whole lot about it. There's really not much in the way of drive modes or customization for those drive modes, really. I mean, so I think they could definitely do more. Is it worth doing? I mean, that's a whole other thing. I think Tesla's smart to just say, hey, what's the big gimmick that everyone loves? If you want an electric car and you want a performance electric car, most likely you're in that for the acceleration, not the handling. Electric cars are not good to track typically. I don't know of any tracks. I mean, I'm sure there's a few, but I don't know which ones even have DC fast chargers, but I can probably count on one hand how many have DC fast chargers at the track to, do these quick, like Ioniq 5N is designed to do 20 minutes on track, 20-minute fast charge, 20 minutes back on track. And like they designed the cooling for that car to be able to handle that for the battery. But I mean, what tracks can actually even do that? So I think that Tesla's smart to skip the handling stuff because most of those buyers don't actually care. Give them the fast acceleration. They're happy, give them a little bit to help them. So it's a little bit more even, with brakes that at least allow you to, haul the power down to a stop, reasonably well and, call it good. So I don't blame Tesla for not going hardcore with that. And let me see here. Dave says my 97 Cavalier was the most reliable long-term car I've seen. Well, there you go. Yeah. Just comes down to your luck with those GM vehicles. It's funny. And I've heard other people that had, crappy Cavaliers too. So it is so funny how it really comes down to luck sometimes. And I think also just proper maintenance. I think, a lot of people just, skip some of the maintenance and, that doesn't help sometimes either. But whenever we're talking about wear items, like, Danny's talking about, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, this stuff shouldn't wear, but who knows? Alex, said it is an ELS there in the MDX. Okay. I'm glad I remembered properly there. And Luke says, I typically Bluetooth audio and I listen to mainly heavy metal music. Okay. So yeah, that kind of stuff. Fender probably, is tuned for that, Fender stereo, obviously, that makes sense. So for your type of music, that's might actually be the best choice, even beyond the Bose and stuff. So yeah, all that context is key. And Kyle, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. And Brian, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, with 1,000 horsepower rear-wheel drive and $200,000 starting price, how long do you think the ZR1 is going to take to get on wrecked exotics? Oh, not very long at all. Yeah, I think actually whenever they were developing C8, I can't remember. I don't know if this is legit, but I remember reading a report that GM's legal team was nervous about C8 because even from the start, I mean, what a base C8 can still do, a 3.5 seconds 0 to 60 or something under 4 seconds. It's a lot for, $60,000 starting price, at least back then, and it just, it's getting crazier with each variant. And, I mean, I guess at the $200,000 price tag and the fact there's going to be markups for a lot of these people that are buying them for a while and stuff as well, it's now close like a typical supercar barrier of entry. Now, yes, the average supercar buyer goes out and buys a Huracan with 600 horsepower or something, not 1,000. A lot of those have, again, all-wheel drive and stuff. So even for those, experienced Huracan buyers and, people like that, it's going to be maybe a little overwhelming. So I agree. I think also the saving grace, though, with this stuff is modern stability control systems, especially the GM ones, are very smart. They have not only just the regular settings, but there's also the PTM settings if you know how to hit the right button sequence to bring those up. And that really can be custom tailored to do really smart assistance. And so, if we were talking 5, 10, 15 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, buckle up, get out of the way. But, these days, yes, obviously there's still going to be some people. I mean, people are wrecking regular C8s left and right, no problem already, so double the horsepower and, it's, there's still going to have a lot of people that just don't respect the power. It's an adjustment. And that's just something that for some people doesn't jive with their personality type, but it's going to be very quick. And I just hope that again they end up in a ditch and not hurting anybody else. But that's the nature of fast cars. Is unfortunately there's a few bad apples in every bunch sometimes. But Kyle, thank you so much for gifting those 5 memberships, and happy to see everyone able to grab those here. And Kyle, I gotta say too, I really appreciate every single week Kyle's gifting memberships and helping so many people stay members. And so thank you again so much, Kyle. Seriously, it's so impressive. And we gotta we gotta do some type of fun member project to give Kyle an epic shout out or something someday, because he is the GOAT when it comes to gifting memberships here. So thank you again, Kyle. And let me see. A Silva says, my brother is looking for a fun use plug-in hybrid with CarPlay and adaptive cruise control under 25 grand. Any quick thoughts? That's a tough one. Maybe that was fun. That makes it tough, because honestly, most of the plug-in hybrids that are fun, in my opinion, are some of the newest ones, and they're all over 25 grand. Anything under 25 grand, we're talking older gen stuff, back when plug-in hybrids were pragmatic, vehicles that are just designed to be efficient and not much else. I've never driven a last gen Prius Prime, but that's kind of the first thing that popped into my head whenever you said that. Now, it's not going to be fun. It's not a lot of power. I think it's 130 some horsepower, but it has the CarPlay and adaptive cruise. I believe adaptive cruise, at least maybe in the later years of those. But other than that, I don't think there's really anything else. Maybe. Okay. The only other thing I will say, I'm glad I actually thought of this, because this is a car that often gets overlooked and forgotten. Cadillac ELR. I think they're under 25 grand at this point. It's essentially a Chevy Volt 2-door that Cadillac did for a few years. Looks really cool. I don't think it's, that quick, but I think would be more fun than a regular, Prius Prime or Volt or something like that. I believe they had CarPlay, because I think production went beyond 2016, which is when GM introduced CarPlay. And since it's a Cadillac, it probably has adaptive cruise even in 2016, if it was optioned right, at least. So I'm not totally sure if it ticks all the boxes, but Cadillac ELR could maybe be the top pick. That's probably the best recommendation I can say off the top of my head. So there you go. Hopefully that helps a little bit for your brother there. And let me see. Thank you also for another super chat. I really appreciate it. He says, enough chatting from Matty Boy. Someone give him the Subaru vape. The taste of EJ head gaskets brings out the karate chop alter ego. Yeah, well, I am sipping some coffee tonight, so something a little more potent than my average water or any other drink. So maybe I'll get a little bit more amped here with the coffee. I don't know, but yeah, I will try and keep the rants short, because I know I can sometimes go on. But thank you again too for the very generous super chat. And Luke says Chevy should bring back the S10 name and make a Maverick competitor. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't do that the day that they announced Maverick. You think that Chevy would have been scrambling? And I don't know. It's really bizarre that, even Toyota's taken longer than I thought they should. Maverick's been out, what? It came out in, was it 2020 at this point? Because we're already on the refresh of the Maverick. And, other than Hyundai with Santa Cruz, it's just crickets from everybody. And I don't know. I really just, sometimes with GM, they have everything in the parts bin. They can, these are not hard things in my mind, again, on the outside looking in at least. And yeah, I have no clue why they don't do that. I don't know why they never dropped the supercharged V8 and the Silverado and printed money. They could have easily done that, like zero work. Take just the ZR2, make it ZR2 supercharged, even if you want to be really lazy and do nothing else unique, just call it ZR2 supercharged, slap another 50 grand onto the price tag, and people have been lining up. You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't get it. I really don't understand Chevy a lot of times. Very nice people that work in Chevy. I've gotten to know some of them now since I've been invited on quite a few Chevy events recently. Very lovely people from the PR department. They're obviously not the people making the decisions. But I would love to talk to some of the higher ups at Chevy sometime and be like, can you say, like, please tell me there's a good reason why you didn't print money with supercharged Silverados? Like, it just, it seems too easy. Like, come on. Raphael, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, do you think the ZR2 just killed all the hype for the Mustang GTD? I think Ford killed the hype for the Mustang GTD. I mean, it's cool. And if you are a racing purist that can really, truly appreciate that car's abilities, which I'm sure are mind blowing, but you know, 250 grand. Yeah. I mean, I would rather have a ZR1 all day, every day for 50 grand less. And it's the fact that, I mean, Ford is being so picky with the selection process for GTD. They're super limited, super rare. You know, it's going to be the same crap as like the Ford GT supercar. You know, they're probably going to make you sign some big, long thing that you can't sell it for, you know, 3 years or more. And, you know, all these things. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know anyone that's honestly excited about GTD because it's so unobtainable. Like, even though it's only 250 grand, like you're going to have an easier time getting your hands on a Lamborghini Temerario than you will on a Mustang GTD, I think. So it's like, you know, who cares what the price is? If they're going to just make them, you know, out of reach for everyone except Jay Leno and a couple other people, then like, what's the point, you know? So like, it just, yeah, I don't know. ZR1 to me, it seems like, you know, that was a car that was still produced in good numbers. You know, Chevy doesn't really play that many games as far as allocations and stuff. You know, it's just, they send them to the dealers, and of course dealers can do their own thing. But, you know, I think Chevy, to me, at least when it comes to the desirable stuff, they are pretty much straight shooters when it comes to that. And they're not, you know, playing games like Ford loves to do. So, yeah, I think ZR1. I'm glad to see people are actually excited about ZR1. I haven't heard a ton of hype about that either since the initial launch, but I have heard more buzz about that than Mustang GTD, which I think a lot of people have actually completely forgotten about because, you know, they had the big splash of the reveal and then everyone's like, okay, cool. They're making like 5 of them and they're going to be 250 grand. I don't care anymore. And everyone just forgot about it. And you'll never see them on the roads either, most likely. So, you know, I'm almost putting it out of my mind as well. It's like, who cares? You know, it's a fun showpiece for, again, the rich people that can go race them around all day. But, you know, it's not a vehicle we're going to be enjoying really at Cars and Coffee or anything like that. And Brian, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate the generosity there as well, Brian. And I'm sure everyone else does there that's able to get those memberships. And Chad, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, just help my mom order a 25 Maverick. I'm 6'4", over 250, and those trucks are great. That's awesome. Yeah, the Mavericks are fantastic. I mean, so this is why I am truly unbiased, because I can, you know, slam Ford 1 minute for Mustang GTD and then praise them the other minute for the Maverick, which is a brilliant car that everyone else should be doing and copying. And a Maverick, they deserve every penny that they make in profit on the Mavericks, because that's just a brilliant idea. I'm so glad that Ford at least is, you know, focusing on affordability there, even if they're not producing sedans and things like that. At least we got a nice affordable people mover still with the Maverick that's also really great on gas. So that's awesome. I hope your mom enjoys her Maverick, and I'm hoping to try out the 25s here sometime soon. And thanks again, Chad, also for the super chat. And Sean, thank you so much for being a member for 26 months, over 2 years. I really appreciate all the support, Sean. He says, hey, Matt, thoughts on the BMW Z3? I haven't found the Geo Metro convertible I want. Z3s are cheap and apparently are pretty reliable. Z4, not so much. Gotcha. So, yeah, I think Z3s are cool. I have never reviewed one. Actually, another member, Hugo, who I haven't seen around for a while, he must be busy, but he has a Z3 and he offered it to me. I believe he's either in North Carolina or South Carolina, so a little too far for me to run out and review it casually, but I'm hoping to at some point meet up with him and review that one, or if I have another one that crosses my path at some point, you know, be able to review it. But I did drive them a long time ago when I used to work at a BMW, Audi, Porsche dealer, and Z3 was always really cool. I always loved all of them, Z3 and Z4, for how small and how it's like you're wearing like a vehicle. Like it's I don't know, I can't really, I guess, put it into like good words, but it just feels like a natural extension of yourself because of how small it is. And it's just a really fun vehicle to drive around, even if it's not, the most amazingly flat handling. Because again, we're talking about chassis dynamics from 25 years ago or whatever. Excuse me. I mean, the power is obviously not going to be anything impressive, but I mean, if you're, shopping geometric convertibles, which would also be really fun in a different way. But obviously they're not worried about power. So Z3 should be great. Now Z4s, I hadn't heard that they were terrible. Cause I mean, motor wise, they should be pretty stout. Maybe it's the electrical stuff that's a little iffy on Z4s. I hadn't heard the Z4s were rough, from a mechanical standpoint. But if Z3 is the better choice, I actually think the Z3s look a lot cooler anyway. So I think Z3 would be a great, fun purchase. And I think that's also a car that has a potential to appreciate. And I feel like they haven't really, and I'm not sure why, because I feel like that's kind of maybe on the tail end of the whole like Radwood kind of obsession right now. That, people, a lot of us that are, same kind of age as me, mid-30s, kind of grew up with some of these things. We couldn't afford them obviously when we were kids or whatever, but now we have the money for these kinds of things. And you're seeing this a lot with a lot of these, JDM icons from the 90s that are, blowing up in value and stuff. I feel like Z3 should be in line for that. And I'm not sure why it hasn't been yet, aside from, the clown shoes being super big money. But regular Z3s, if it's a clean one in good shape, I feel like that is a good investment. I'm no, car investment expert, but just my 2 cents, I think that would be a great car, especially if you're going to preserve it and keep it nice. I think Z3 is a really solid buy. So yeah, I'd recommend that, as long as, again, you're buying an old German vehicle. So I mean, be prepared for, some issues still for sure. Whether they're simple or complicated and expensive, I'm not sure, because I'm not an expert on those, but I think it'd be a fun purchase for sure. And thanks again, Sean, for being a member for so long. And 2, thank you for another super chat as well. He says, GTD, get the D. No, Peter, bad, back in the basement. Go play with your scissors. Wait, never mind. Excuse my alter ego. Man, who let 2 out of the basement? He's out here going crazy. But thanks, too, for stopping by. I highly recommend anyone that is a member, go join the Discord. There should be a link in the member page if you go to the member post to join the Discord, and you can see his funny tracks there that he's dropping. And let me see, where was I? Finding my spot here. Let me get another sip of coffee. So Dave says, even Europe is going to SUVs. The new Ford Capri is a renamed SUV like the Mach-E. Yeah, I think Capri looks nice, but it's another case of Ford just not caring about a name's history and just trying to profit off of it. It's sad, but yeah, I agree. Europe is definitely, they do have a lot of hatchbacks though still. I mean, I was just in Italy in April, and I mean, it's still, everything is mostly small hatchbacks. And I mean, it's a lot of it is just, they're taxed by size and displacement in Italy, I believe, especially by size. Cause like, I think someone told me a Ford Ranger costs like $100,000 to like have over, like basically you're rich if you're driving a Ford Ranger in Italy. So, everyone drives these tiny little cars, and it's great. I mean, yeah, because I love small cars. Even this week, my 2 press cars that I have a Wrangler 392 Final Edition, and then I have a Honda Civic Hybrid. And like the Wrangler 392, it's a big laugh. It's hilarity on wheels, but it's so big and it's just not me. And then I get back into the Civic Hybrid and I'm like, like this is where I want to be. Like, this is what I love, which I know, again, for an enthusiast, people like want to fall out of their chair hearing me say I'd rather drive a Civic Hybrid over a Wrangler 392, but that's truly like, I love small cars. It's really, I think, one of my strongest passions in the automotive space is just small cars and just how great they inherently feel. They don't have to have a sporty suspension or sporty tires, and yet a Civic Hybrid, handles miles better obviously than a Wrangler 392 does. But it just feels so good to be in a small little car, at least in my opinion. Anyway, So Danny says, my parents had different cars for their first car. My mom had a 90 or 91 Dodge Spirit. My dad's was a 90s Buick Skylark I talked about. Nice. Yeah, both fun cars. Those Spirits used to be everywhere. It's so funny. I mean, you still see occasionally some 90s Hondas or Toyotas, but like any any American stuff from the 90s, there's a couple GMs every once in a while, maybe a few Fords, but there's like no Dodge stuff from the 90s on the roads these days anymore. It's sad. I'd love to see that someday, but I think last time I saw a Spirit, it must be at least 5 years or more. It's been a long, long time. So yeah, that's cool though. Very cool starter cars. And let me see. Car said, what are your thoughts about the Aptera solar car with claim 0 to 60 times as low as 4 seconds? It looks pretty interesting and fun. Would that debut at was it CES a couple of years ago? I haven't heard anything about that thing in a while. I thought it was just vaporware. I think last time I reported on it in a weekly update was like last year. I mean, I think a solar car could make sense in certain, parts of the country, especially. And as solar continues to evolve, I think that'll be something to keep an eye on for the future, even as just like a range booster on plug-in hybrids. And I mean, I talked about this in my Prius Prime review. That one the one that I had the solar roof option, which you can get. I think it's only like $1,500 or something. And that thing sat outside all week, and I can't remember how many miles I got out of it. I don't know if it was 4 miles a day or 4 miles a week, but like it charged a significant amount that if you don't drive very much, like if you're someone who works from home or something, like you could potentially do a lot of your driving just on solar power, just having the car just sit there and not even plugging it in. And it's a really cool thing, just as a little, again, range enhancement booster kind of thing. And I think that's really going to make the most sense is, for those types of applications, once it's cheap enough that it's worthwhile to do. And I think solar has a really good future for cars, hopefully. Let me see. And even I think also solar, one last thing, solar could be a really valuable thing for EVs. It's kind of like an emergency thing almost, of if you do happen to run out of charge, or if you do happen to get in an area where you're limping along and you got to go to another charger that's a few miles away or something. If you sit in a parking lot for half an hour, you can get two more miles of range just to limp to the next spot or something. Like, it could be a kind of marketed as a nice backup thing, again, just for very limited, use case kinds of things. But, it's really cool. Just the idea that you could literally keep a Prius Prime parked outside. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. You could keep one of those parked outside, for however long, and you could literally come back to a fully recharged car. It might take a while, right, with current technology, but you can do it. And I think that's just, kind of a fun futuristic thing to think about. But anyway, Danny said, my mom had 2 accidents in that Dodge Spirit. One was a minor fender bender, and the other one was a driver's side front fender smash at about 55 miles per hour. And the Spirit spun and slammed into a building. Mom, okay. Wow. Well, that is impressive for 90s safety tech, but glad your mom got lucky. That is wild. Man, that is 55 mile an hour hit in a Spirit would be terrifying. And then going into a building as well. Man, that is wild. I'm glad she was okay. That is nuts. Dave says, so was the last gen Camaro a sports car or muscle car? That's the question, right? It depends on who you ask. I think, to me, it was a sports car by this last generation. It really was, because muscle car is still, to me, that word carries, kind of the idea of a little bit lopsided performance, of typically more power than handling. It's about the power. I think, almost like a Tesla is kind of like a muscle electric car in some ways compared to, the more well-rounded ones out there. And I think Camaro was a sports car. It was excellently well-rounded. I mean, you had fantastic brakes, fantastic grip, tons of tire, great steering, very low center of gravity for something like that. Just so dynamic and kept up with genuine sports cars on track, and has the lap times to show for it. And I think it absolutely is a sports car, at least in the class. I mean, some people might want to refuse that classification because they like the muscle car identity of the Camaro that it previously had, but absolutely it was a sports car through and through, in that last generation especially. And Danny's story continues. He says the fender bender was because a bee flew in the car and she was trying to swat it away, and the car rolled into the back bumper of another car. The person she hit was very understanding. Well, that's good. And hey, I mean, it happens, that's crazy. But Dave says my 2003 Cavalier died before my 97. Interesting. So it's certain years are better than others, I guess. Shane says no high, no lows, must be Bose. Nice. I think I've heard that before. I don't know. Bose, to me, there's been some duds for sure. I think some of the GM Bose stuff was pretty crappy, but the Bose and the Hondas is really good, at least in my opinion. I'm no audio expert, but I'm always impressed with the Bose stereos. I have a Bose stereo right now in the Civic Hybrid as well. And again, I'm like, man, it's so good sounding. And there's some others too, where it's been mostly pretty good in my experience. Again, I think some of the like C6 Corvettes had a Bose stereo that was not good in my opinion. Some of those older ones weren't great, but yeah, I'm no audio expert, so I'll leave the judgments of Bose to others. And Simple Jack says, how would you rate 2011 to 2014 Mustang GTs? I love them. They're fantastic. I drove that dude in blues back whenever he had his just slightly modified, his 2013. And I love that thing. That was one of my first, actually, that was, I think, my first Mustang experience. Actually, no, I test drove one at a dealer back in college, but one of my earliest Mustang experiences in that. And actually, Facebook just gave me a little memory thing that I can't remember how many years ago. I think it said it was 12 years ago. It is a picture of that dude in blues Smurf Mustang in my parents' driveway, parked next to my BRZ, back whenever he actually stayed over at my parents' house for the night when he was coming for the hangar parties that they do with Pittsburgh Cars and Coffee here. And so I was like, yeah, sure. Like, you want to come up? You can stay at my place. Totally cool. And, we hung out and we're talking till, late at night and had a good time in Pittsburgh there for the weekend. I was showing him around and having fun, showing him all the Pittsburgh sites. But yeah, I love that generation Mustang. I always thought they were fantastic. I personally prefer the 13 to 14 styling better than the 11 to 12, but they're all obviously Coyotes. I'd say I'd steer clear of an 11 just because that was the first year of the Coyote V8. There was a few teething issues and stuff. Obviously, by this point, they've all aged enough that you probably have weeded out the bad ones. But I'd maybe just go for a 12 or newer potentially, but yeah, it's a good car for sure. And Shane says, Matt, you should do a car review with Kyle for gifting all these memberships. That would be cool. Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, I think Kyle actually has a Camaro. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly where Kyle's at, but I'm always happy to take a spin in a subscriber's car if I can find the time. That's always something that I've enjoyed doing with many of the car reviews here over the years. But I do have a lot of stuff waiting for me. If I do remember correctly, I got about him being in Jersey. I have a bunch of stuff out east there that I could review. That's some really fun stuff. So it's just finding the time. That is always the thing. And it's always the debate in my head of like, do I just like really scale back on press cars and then just hit the road and review a bunch of cool old stuff or what? But I love the new stuff. It's to me, I like keeping up to date with all the new stuff, but the views are just getting harder and harder these days. And it's a question I keep wondering, should I just quit competing with everybody and just, do these oddballs instead, or just, random old vehicles that I'm hoping would get views, but you never know. But anyway, it's a great idea, Shane. Maybe it's something, if Kyle's interested and wants me to drive his car, we could maybe set up someday. Good Stick says, what are your thoughts on Tesla removing turn signals and the gear shifter? I prefer the stocks as it makes it more convenient. I think this is the only issue with the refreshed Model 3. I guess I heard about the gear shifter. I didn't know about them removing the turn signal stock. But I mean, I think that's a bad idea in anything. Like, you should have turn signals very easy to use since not enough people use them anyway. Making that more complicated seems like a bad idea. So yeah, that's not great, but it's Tesla, so I've kind of thrown my hands up in the air about applying any kind of logic to to the decisions that they make. Truck and Car Guy, thanks for stopping by here. He says, greetings from Arizona. Hope you're staying cool out there in Arizona, Truck and Car Guy, and good to see you here. And I see A Silva. I'm glad you're excited about the ELR. Hopefully that maybe is something that's worth checking out for him. And Cam says, can't believe I missed last week's live. Looked like tons of fun, but my Avril Lavigne concert was amazing. Awesome. Well, congrats on going to that. Hope, yeah, it was a good time. I had a friend back whenever we were teenagers that was obsessed with Avril Lavigne. I'm glad to see that she's still out there performing and still making music. It's cool. Let me see. Kyle says that'd be interesting for sure. Yeah, well, no pressure, Kyle. Please, I never ask to review anyone's cars. I always wait for people to offer because I never want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. But always happy to go for a spin. Zachary says the GTD price is so ridiculous for a car with essentially the same interior as an EcoBoost. I know. And, when they just revealed the interior a couple of weeks ago or whatever, I was like expecting way more. I was like, okay, there's going to probably be like some bespoke stuff on the inside, some really cool, unique things. And they phoned it in, especially the seats. The seats are the real inexcusable thing. They are literally like regular Recaros, it seems. You get on any other Mustang as an option. And I mean, at that price point, like everything should be special in that car. Every single thing. If you've actually convinced someone to spend $250,000 on a regular brand new Mustang, like you better bring your A game with everything. And phoning in anything at that price tag for that kind of a car is completely unacceptable. I know, again, the suspension is completely different underneath than a regular Mustang and all the other stuff, but like, nope. I mean, because I'll say one last thing about GTD and then I will move on. Last gen GT500 is an amazing car on track, especially with the track handling package. It's not like it's some sloppy pig. Obviously, the GTD again is like this, Le Mans car or whatever. It's going to be this amazing thing, but like GT500 is actually a very potent track weapon. Like I took it around Las Vegas Speedway, their infield course there that they have, or the other course that's like adjacent to the drag strip. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but I mean, I've tracked GT500 with the track package. It is phenomenal, very high limits, a ton of fun. You can pick one of those up probably. I don't know what they go for these days, but at least half the price of a GTD, even if they have appreciated, most likely you're talking a third of the price for a car that again is amazing on track. We're not talking about crappy handling, like truly an amazing rocket on track. So yeah, that's the other. It'd be different if there was like no track capable Mustangs or something, but yeah, you already have so many good ones to pick from. GT350 is amazing on track. Like, GTD is just, yeah, not into it. Good Six says an Aston Martin DB12 is cheaper than the GTD. Yeah, and you know which one I'd pick. That's for sure. But that is a very good illustration of just how insane that is. Yeah. Jacob says, Matt, thoughts on a used G70 2021 3.3T all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive versus 2022 3.3T after the facelift? Also, how does the 2.0 compare to the 24 2.5T? So first part of your question there. So as far as all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive for the 21s, pre-refresh, I mean, as far as pre-facelift and post-facelift, there's no driving dynamics changes. I think you just got the slightly louder exhaust with the facelift, but honestly, even that, I didn't really notice much of a difference. If you want an actual throaty exhaust, you're gonna have to go to the aftermarket either way. And so it's going to come down to styling, subjective, thoughts for you. If you like the refresh over the pre-refresh, if that's worth the extra premium, to pay that extra price tag, then go for it. Otherwise, I think, 21, that would be just as good. As far as all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive, I'm trying to remember, did I drive both? I think I only drove the all-wheel drive one. I don't think I spent a week with a rear-wheel drive one, if I'm remembering correctly. And I mean, all-wheel drive one was great. Rear-wheel drive probably would be a little more exciting, obviously. And if you don't need the all-wheel drive, all-weather capability, then I would say rear-wheel drive is probably going to be the extra fun one. So I'd go for maybe that. As far as how 2.0T compares to 2.5T. 2.0T, is fine. I think it's totally acceptable for a, mild, sport sedan kind of thing. You don't need a ton of power. It's still sufficient. I think they do what, like around a 6 seconds there to 60, maybe even a little bit less. totally fine. I'd be completely happy in a 2.0T. The 2.5T here for 24 is a nice improvement. But it's also not wildly faster. So I think I talked about this in the end of my 2.5T review, that you can get a 3.3T for, like a used one for the same money as a 24 2.5T. And I think I would most likely just go for a lightly used 3.3T if you are in search of extra power. So I think for the 4-cylinder Genesis G70s, it's really an everything or nothing kind of scenario. If you're going to, go for a slower one, just go full blown slow into the 2.0T and save yourself the extra money. If you want power and you want that, then just go up to the 3.3T as long as you're okay with a fuel economy hit. Go up to the 3.3T and, just go for one of those and, pick whatever suits your fancy as far as styling and price point, as far as, years and wheels driven and all that. So I guess that's my best advice there. I don't want to say skip the 2.5T. I think 2.5T is great if you want better fuel economy. Or you just want a 24 and you want to get into a 24 cheaper. I think 2.5T is a great compromise. But again, when you look at the used market and just how quickly they depreciate, that's where it's a little tough to justify the 2.5T if you're open to used versions. That's where it kind of goes out the window from a value standpoint. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. And feel free, Jacob, if you have any follow-up questions, I'll be more than happy to answer as well. Let me see. Brian says, just paying it forward from Truck and Car Guy. Thanks again. Well, thank you, Brian, for your generosity and passing that forward there. Let me see. Antonio says, hey, Matt, how was your week? It was great. It's been a pretty good week overall. I'm very grateful. I've been keeping busy, very busy. I got a very busy week coming up here. So I'm slightly dreading this next week. It's going to be a ton of fun, but a lot of work. I'm going to be doing basically what would be the equivalent of a month worth of car reviews in 1 week. So as far as filming goes, so it's gonna be a lot of filming this week. So that's the only thing I'm not looking forward to, but because I'm a one-man crew and it's just me doing it all myself. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna have some very fun cars we'll be reviewing. Any of you that are members and saw the upload schedule of what's coming here towards the end of this month, you kind of know what I'm talking about. It's gonna be very fun. And so that's the stuff I'll be driving here this week. But anyway, moving on here. Excuse me. Sean says the Z4s apparently have electronic problems and the ECUs like to crash. Interesting. And I'm surprised the Z3s don't have any of those issues, but that's great. Then yeah, Z3 for sure in that case. Let me see. Danny says, I just saw someone review a true budget build 93 Honda Accord. It had the JDM F23A under the hood with a $200 turbo on it, and the Accord was bought for $800, and it had the stock trans and diff. Man, that's brave. But that's cool. Budget builds are fun for sure. And yeah, that's sweet. And I think, Danny, were you the one who mentioned the V12 twin turbo swapped WRX STI? Because I finally watched that this past week, and the dude who did that swap's got a bunch of clips, and I think before that he put some other kind of crazy like V8 in it, and then he swapped it for the V12. And man, what a wild build. That would be so much fun to review something like that someday. But man, I can't believe he actually was able to make that work. That's truly impressive. It's fun seeing what people do. Let me see. Vishal, thanks for rejoining as well here and coming back to the Matt Maran Motoring Club. And let me see. Where was I? So Antonio says, what kind of coffee are you drinking, Matt? A little splash of Bailey's in it. Does not have a splash of Bailey's. Just got my regular coffee. I just buy the Members Mark stuff at Sam's Club. And 100 K-Cups for like 30 some bucks. That's how I roll here. I enjoy coffee for sure, but I don't splurge for the expensive stuff. So I'm very cheap when it comes to stuff like that. Also, just because I have to be, again, as you guys saw, selling the bullet and stuff. I don't have any spare cash to be dropping money on fancy coffee. But it's still good, gets the job done, and I think it's actually pretty tasty. You put a little bit of the flavored creamer in there, and you're good to go. And Shane, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships as well. I really appreciate everyone's generosity here tonight, and happy to see some familiar faces. They're able to get some memberships again, and I think maybe some new people as well. So that's awesome. Thanks so much again, Shane, for that. And then getting back to the other member questions here. So let me see. Sean says, huge wildfire over the mountain from my city. We're safe, but there's so much smoke. If you go outside for just a minute, you smell like you've been hanging out at a campfire. Send good vibes. I will definitely send good vibes your way, Sean. Sorry to hear that. I'm guessing you're somewhere out west. Obviously, that sucks. It's that time of year, I guess, and hope it stays contained, and hope it's nothing that's too much of a danger to you outside of the poor air quality. But that is it's so sad that it seems like it's getting more and more common, and it sucks. Like any of these other natural disasters that keep happening more and more. It's just a shame. And I mean, it was crazy. We had the bad air quality last year here, even because like the wildfires in Canada were blowing down, and you stepped outside here in Pittsburgh and it smelled like a campfire. And I remember that, and it was like it's crazy. Even whenever I reviewed the what was it, the Buick, I can't remember the name of the Buick version of the Chevy Trax. So the name is escaping me right now. Invista or whatever it's called. Anyway, that thing, we were filming it in Michigan, and that was during when the wildfires were happening. And it was like, I was like coughing and stuff after standing outside talking for 30 minutes. It was like not great. It sucks. So I can only imagine if that's like something you're dealing with on a regular basis around this time of year, especially. It's no fun. So hope everything gets better soon, Sean, for you. And sorry to hear that. And see, Gran, thank you so much for also gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate you guys supporting the memberships here for everyone. And hopefully we can keep growing the community. And like I said, definitely join the Discord server if you haven't yet. That's a great place to just chat casually with me, just like this, but just on the Discord server there. I don't respond super fast, but I do respond. I try and check it at least once a day and sign in. Again, if nothing else, you can hop on there now to listen to Tu Chang's sick beats. They're actually like really well produced and everything, like really good. Tu does a really good job with those 2 songs I've heard so far. Apparently he says he has more, but he's only gifted us with 2 of his songs so far on the Discord server there. So definitely check those out and show him some love too. Especially, like I said, the Matt Moran roast was was funny and definitely worth a listen, I think. And let me see other member questions. So Cam says he's excited for that Civic Hybrid review. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of hype for that vehicle, which is cool. I think it's a really solid package. I will save my initial impressions that I have already experienced. I'll save that for the review because I don't want to spoil the video. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't want to be a tease, but I will just say that it's not everything that I was expecting so far, but I do need to do some more driving in some other situations to kind of get a better feel for some of it. So still feeling out the Civic Hybrid a little bit there. And Goodstick says, what do you think of the 2000s Yaris? A lot of people like to joke on it for being really funky looking and not very fast. People from back then would be driven wild by what the Yaris became now. Yeah, I mean, I think Yaris was a really good little people's car. It seems like manufacturers have just completely forgotten about that entire buyer group that wanted stuff that was small, that was maybe not super practical, but practical enough, if we're talking about like a 2-door Yaris and stuff. A good little car, and reliable, that'll go 1 million miles probably with regular maintenance, just great little things. That's what Toyota's been built on, and I hope that they continue to remember that and really remember that they really have one of the best people's cars out there. I think the Corolla still does a great job of carrying that mantle, as does a lot of the other stuff, but again, they're all just a little pricier. I'd love to see more affordable stuff from Toyota, and maybe that's something that'll happen eventually. We'll see. But let me see. So Zachary says, have you heard anything or have thoughts about Honda Acura doing a hybrid Integra? I feel like that would be an amazing commuter. I agree. I mean, obviously, the pieces are all there. And so, I mean, yeah, I would assume obviously they're going to give Civic Hybrid a little bit of room to breathe there, but I'm guessing, did they announce 25 Integra stuff yet? I'm not sure if they've already like done the switch over for Integra for this model year or not. If not, I mean, they could even debut it here, for 2025 or maybe till 2026, but it's got to be a no-brainer because Integra sells really well, and I don't think that a hybrid version would hurt that, especially again when you look at what do they have to compete with? You could maybe argue like a Lexus UX has the hybrid thing, and actually stay tuned. That is going to be tomorrow's review. But outside of that, I mean that's pretty cramped inside. The Integra has way more space. So if they did a hybrid version of that, it'd be like game over for the UX because everyone would just go by the Integra, I think. But yeah, they have to be doing it. There's surely that makes too much sense to skip. I mean, Honda does do some things that make no sense or doesn't do things that they should do, but I think that's got to be coming because especially with the hybrid stuff. One, Honda said they want to hybridize. I think what did they say? 50% of the lineup in the next few years or something like that. I mean, they're pushing hybrids hard. And they need to, obviously raise CAFE averages as much as possible. I don't think they're really in danger since they don't make any gas guzzlers necessarily, but I think it could only help them to make more hybrids. So as long as they can source enough components, I think, hybrid Integra has got to be coming soon. It just makes too much sense. And I'm excited for it when it does, because then it's, all the goodness of, Civic and Civic hatch, but with a little bit more luxury. And should be just as awesome as those Civic hybrids are. So I'm hoping that does come soon. But I have not heard anything personally. I haven't even heard any rumors of that, which seems like it'd be easy, like rumor fodder to just put something like that out and be like, oh, I've heard that this is happening, but I haven't seen anything like that yet. But it's got to be coming. Let me see. Chad says my first car was an A6 Nova, basically a rebadged Corolla. Couldn't kill it. I'm sure. Yeah, those are impressive. Those good old badge engineering days. That's cool. When Chevy made a Nova, it was just a Corolla with a different badge. Really, like basically that is it. Maybe I do think the grill was different, right? I think that's about it. But those old Novas, they're kind of cool with the graphics you could get on the side of them and fun designs on the seats and stuff. Antonio says he's in Ontario and the smoke and smell over here too. That's crazy. It's just everywhere. I see Sean saying they want to have Acura ditch the CVT. Yeah, that'd be nice. I just think, especially if they switch to the hybrid thing for Integra, obviously it's going to be the same kind of parallel hybrid system you see in the Civic, which doesn't technically have a transmission, but, could just be a same kind of CVT like feeling for those. And I think they call it an eCVT, even though that's a very broad term now. It doesn't really mean anything. But Sean says, yeah, we've got ash falling like snow here. My wife and daughter's asthmas are flaring up something fierce, man. That is rough. Yeah. Best wishes to everyone out there. And I gotta say the East Coast is beautiful this time of year. If you can afford a little getaway from the smoke, come out east here. The leaves are going to start changing soon, and it's a beautiful time of year to be on the East Coast. So if you can afford a little getaway, highly recommend. But that's definitely a very tough thing. Let me see. Thank you so much for another super chat. He says, so luxury cars use luxury materials, but what parts could never be luxury besides nuts and bolts? You'll never see a luxury belt buckle, just like you never see a sane Peter. Yeah. I mean, as far as what parts could never be luxury, I think there's a lot of that stuff that's, luxury cars largely are marketing, because even, look at Integra. Integra is nice, but like, what does Integra have over Civic? They both are offered with leather these days. They both have heated seats. They both have great stereos. Again, Bose in the Civic still. Even though you go up to, I think now is it still the ELS, or did they go to Bang & Olufsen in the Integra as well? I'm not sure, but regardless, really good stereos even in a regular Civic. The Integra's thing for a while was just having the hatch. If you wanted the manual, at least that was the exclusive thing with the Civic Si, not having the hatch. But outside of that, there's really, no other stuff aside from, I think it's a little bit of extra sound deadening, and some of the materials are slightly nicer on the dash and things like that. But, luxury stuff often is just marketing in many ways. Cause you're right. Like when you really get down to it, like, they're all using leather, and yes, it's varying types of leather and qualities and materials and stuff. And you'd like to think the build quality is slightly better, but I've heard a lot of horror stories about build quality for some of these, like Mercedes, especially recently, not being great. So, that's not even a given anymore. So, there's less and less to differentiate these days. In the past, it used to be like, oh, well, you can only get adaptive cruise on an electric car. You can only get heated seats on an electric car, things like that. And then that stuff really trickled down pretty fast that it's like, you don't really get any new stuff. It's just about that prestige and the badge and, maybe a quieter ride, maybe a smoother ride, something like that. But that's, it's kind of limited with a lot of it. I mean, there are certain cars, where it is really a cut above, like you hop in a Genesis G80, like it's going to feel wildly nicer than a Sonata or something like that. But, there's some of those things where, some of them, whenever you're talking about stuff like Integra and Civic, where it's a little more debatable because it's a little more that's shared there. And let me see other member questions here. And thank you again too for the super chat. I appreciate it again. Let me see. Get another sip of coffee while I find my spot. Vishal says, what's up, Matt? My new Jetta has about 400 miles on it, and I've really been enjoying it so far. I grabbed a 24 because they were doing good deals on them. Even got the 2.9 APR, 60 months financing through Volkswagen. That's awesome. Congrats. And I mean, yeah, they changed it, a little bit there, but honestly, it's not like it's some giant change. So yeah, you're not missing out on too much. I'm sure we're getting a 24 anyway, and I'm glad you're loving it. That's great. And yeah, the deals, you can get a good deal, and it's easy to get. That's great. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's awesome. And I keep requesting the 25 Jettas to see if I can get my hands on one here before it gets cold, especially the GLI. I'd like to review, when it's not freezing cold outside, but that might have to wait till the spring. We'll see. But yeah, I think they're doing a good job with the Jetta, especially I love the fact they kept the price low and kept it affordable. It's, I mean, there's a few companies doing that here these days. Nissan's doing it also with Sentra. But yeah, I love that Volkswagen's keeping it affordable. And Antonio says, Matt, would you ever stream on TikTok live? I have a TikTok, but I never used it. I kind of just did it because I was going to reserve my username, but then some other person already had Matt Maran Motoring, and I like messaged them like, hey, like, do you mind like letting me have it? They didn't respond. I mean, it's not like I'm entitled to it or anything. It was just like, why would you pick Matt Maran Motoring for your username? But anyway, someone's squatting on the actual name. So I think Matt Maran _ Motoring is my username on TikTok, but I haven't posted anything, mostly just because I posted a few of my recycled Instagram reels on there. They didn't do anything. And I guess it's a little bit controversial, but I don't love TikTok as a platform for a variety of reasons. And it's also just one more thing I didn't want to have to bother with, considering it maybe drove some traffic if I was able to actually get it running, to a higher level. But it's just, again, I'm already burning the candle at both ends and having to do more stuff for another platform that doesn't pay me. That's the bottom line. Like other people that do TikTok for fun, like TikTok is a great thing for influencers and creators who don't care about making money. Or if you have these ambitions of doing brand deals all the time, because the only way you make money on TikTok, I mean, you can make a little bit, but you're getting ripped off compared to YouTube. If you had the same or even a tenth of the views on YouTube, you'd make way more money than you do on TikTok. It is hilariously low amounts of money unless you're doing brand deals, which you have to do yourself and, work out those deals on your own. But TikTok just, doesn't pay creators. They take all the revenue and they, give you peanuts. It's insulting what they pay creators. I mean, like I've talked to like Chris Fix, one of the biggest automotive people out there. I'm very fortunate to call him a friend. I mean, he showed me what he makes on his TikToks. It's honestly like it would be less insulting if they just didn't pay him at all. Like honestly, the amount of money that TikTok makes off of these people and doesn't pay anything in return. Same thing with Instagram, like zero. Like it's so disgustingly low how much they even pay. And then even when they did pay, like, it was tiny amounts of money. And now I think for most people, they still don't even pay you at all. I don't get paid on Instagram at all, unless I'm actually doing, again, a brand deal and someone pays me to post something on there, but that's it. it's just like YouTube is still the only platform that actually pays you to just like post a video, click monetize, and walk away, and not have to, do brand deals and do this, that, and the other. You can just focus on the videos you want to make. YouTube is still the best platform, and it's no one's come close because everyone's too greedy to give it up. And I think YouTube would love to probably backpedal as well, seeing that everyone else is getting to pocket all the money themselves, but YouTube's already in it, and they already have this giant creator economy, so they can't get out of it. With, I think the revenue split right now is 55-45, so I get 45%, they get 55, I think, of all the ad revenue. But it's just YouTube's the only one that pays. So yeah, no, won't be doing a TikTok live unless they pay me a big amount of money to do it on there. But yeah, not happening anytime soon, I don't think, unfortunately. But good question. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people don't really know how TikTok works as far as the nuts and bolts, and how much they just like completely rip off the people that actually post on there. But again, if you're doing it for fun and you're just some random non-professional just posting a fun TikTok on the weekends just to kill some time or something, and you don't care about getting money, and you just like the little 10 seconds of fame, it's great. I think it's great for that kind of stuff, but it's not something for an actual career. But two, thank you for another super chat. He says, for the chat tonight, using YouTube personalities, cast the live action Initial D. Takumi is Matt, Bunta is Doug, RX Seven Brothers, Big Time, Ikatene, I don't even know how to say that YouTuber's name, Chris Fix, Gasman, Scotty. See, I don't even know anything about Initial D, so all of that is lost on me, unfortunately. But hopefully someone gets some appreciation for two there and enjoys that. But unfortunately, one of those series I've never gotten around to watching. I want to watch it just someday, but I think that's gonna be a tough one to talk Beth into into watching with me. So yeah, we got some good shows we're working through here now, but yeah, maybe someday we'll get to Initial D. And let me see. So Gran says, my first car was a 92 old Sierra, criminally underpowered. I'm sure. I mean, like anything back in those days, honestly. But another really cool car. I think it was the Sierra, wasn't it? That was the best selling car in the country back in those days, like early 80s, I think, or it was Cutlass. Old Cutlass was the top. So yeah, Cutlass was the number one selling car in America. Talk about a different time when Cutlass, which was, I believe, only a two-door back then as well, was the top selling car in the country. Man, it'd be fun to go back and, just see that many coupes on the road. But anyway, moving on. Omar says, is GMC or Cadillac the luxury brand for Chevy? And do you feel like GMC is going to be gone soon? No, GMC is really solid because, at least according to the presentations they've given us in the past year or two here, GMC is growing quickly from a brand awareness and from a like buyer interest kind of standpoint. People really like that idea of, especially these days now with, urban cowboys and, for lack of a better term, that really like these loaded, $100,000 luxury trucks. There's no luxury branded trucks. You have, the usual mainstream brands, and there's no luxury brands. I'm still waiting. I don't know why they haven't done a Lincoln version of the F-150 again. They tried it, with the Blackwood way back when. That needs to come back yesterday. And same thing. I don't know why there's no Escalade EXT anymore. Like that should have come back. But so Cadillac is the top luxury brand for GM. That's always been the way. And they actually had a whole hierarchy. I think they called it the GM ladder of success is what they called it back in like the 50s and 60s, whenever they had all the brands that they had. And it was always, you work your way up the ladder there, starting with Chevy, going on to Pontiac, then Oldsmobile, and then from Oldsmobile into the Cadillacs there. And that was kind of the ladder you were supposed to climb. Or sorry, I missed Buick. Buick was above Oldsmobile, below Cadillac, and that was the way it was supposed to go. And so GMC obviously was kind of later on, but that's kind of still the way they view it is, GMC is below Cadillac, but is definitely above Chevy there, obviously. And it's kind of fascinating in the, the world of GM there. And speaking of that, Danny says, a well-known 90s GM performance sedan was the Pontiac Bonneville SSEI. I love those things. And also the Grand Prix GXP that transversely mounted LS. I know there's so many cool things they did back then. I agree. I have a lot of love for those quirky things as well, back when GM was able to spend the money to do crazy stuff like that, and I love them for it. I mean, even the transversely mounted, I believe it was transversely mounted in the Impala SS that I reviewed last year, which was my biggest hit last year from a review standpoint. That was hilarious fun. And another one of those just like crazy GM cars they did, front wheel drive V8. It's just funny. And Raphael says, almost time for this year's road trip. I'll be heading past you on my way to Maine. Awesome. Well, that's really cool. And let me know if you're passing near Pittsburgh. If I'm in town and the stars align, maybe we can meet up for cars and coffee or something. I can let you know if that's going to be happening while you're maybe passing through. That's always a fun thing. I've met up with a few people there. Maybe figure something out. Although I don't have anything cool to show, it'd be whatever press car I have that week, since I don't have my own car anymore, unless you're interested in seeing the Mach-E. but yeah, so definitely let me know if you are passing through Pittsburgh here. Let me see. Shred Car Guy says, I'm finally going to start cooling down soon here. It's finally going to start cooling down here soon, just in time for me to get back to class for my CDL. Well, congrats on the CDL. Hopefully that goes smoothly for you. And hope that cooler weather comes soon here. Danny says, thoughts on the 97 Subaru Legacy GT. It's one proof my favorite Subaru sedans when the Legacy was still a big seller for Subaru. Yeah, Legacies are great. My parents had a 97 Impreza Outback Sport. That was my first car. Legacy GTs were cool back then. I just wish that they had more power back then, because that was before the turbo ones that we got here in the States. At least, we didn't have the turbo until the 2005s, but still a fun package nonetheless, with the hood scoop and all that. Dave says, Peugeot did a mid-engine conversion performance car, but Ford couldn't do it for $200,000. I found it disappointing. Yeah, I mean, even like, the Alpine, the little mid-engine thing for, nice affordable price. I wish that would come over here as well. The A220. So many cool things that we don't get in the States. Danny says, also, everyone should hopefully know the Outback originally started as a trim level in the Legacy wagon. It was called a Legacy Outback. And also I saw one of those on my way to school. Nice. Yeah. It was, a very bold thing for Subaru to try back in the day, but clearly, they had the crystal ball that was the way of the future here. Was lifted wagons would be all the rage. And they kind of pioneered that segment, honestly. Let me see. Good Six says, if you think about it, Lancia and Mitsubishi had the same fate. Both companies made iconic cars, but they didn't die off. They continue to exist and continue to survive only to sell terrible cars. I know. It is a shame. I mean, I will say, the Mitsubishi Outlander is actually a really good SUV. I've switched to the plug-in hybrid one. It handles really good. It's actually still my favorite handling of the plug-in hybrid crossovers, which might be a low bar, but I mean, it's a really fun thing. If you watch my Outlander PHEV review, like, I actually really enjoyed my week with that. And if I wanted a PHEV without the headache of trying to track down a RAV4 Prime, I'd probably go for an Outlander PHEV. It's really well done. And I think is a little underrated, but I agree. The rest of the Mitsubishi lineup is thoroughly disappointing, and I hope that they have some new stuff coming here soon. Let me see. I see some conversation here. Shane's offering to lay down a bass track. That's awesome. Michael says, again, thank you for the membership. I have to dip out. Have a good night, everyone. Awesome. Have a good night, Michael, and thanks for stopping by. And Antonio says, Matt, based off your opinions, are cooled seats a gimmick, or do they actually work? 2022 Camry XSE is the car I'm looking at. In a Camry, it works decently well. They're not the best cooled seats out there, but from my memory, they're decent. It's just some are better than others. Like I was just complaining in the Mercedes E450 this week that I posted that review. Those cooled seats did basically nothing. And, we're talking about a Mercedes, like they should work really well. There's other cars. Hyundais have really good cooled seats. There's a lot of really good cooled seats that like get you freezing cold. Even like the Mustang, that had like the seat bottom got pretty nice and cold, actually like really cold on the bottom, but the back was always kind of mediocre. So it's just everyone does it differently and has varying levels of success. And even you'll see in some of the more recent Toyotas here, I just spent a week with, it's like with those, like the cooling works, but it like once your back is like firmly up against the seat, then it's like the air doesn't have anywhere to go for some reason in those seats, the way they're designed. excuse me. So they like end up like blowing all the air like on the top of your shoulders, like where your back isn't like pressing against the seat back, and like all the air just evacuates from that top part, and then like tops of my shoulders are getting like really cold in the new Land Cruiser. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna turn that off. So everyone does. It's so weird how like they can't universally be good, and everyone's got their own quirks with cooled seats. But from my memory, it's decent in Camry. Not the best, not the worst. So make of that what you will. Definitely try it out if you can, on a hot day at a dealer or something, and see what you think. But yeah, should do something with those. Not going to be terrible, I don't think. Vishal says, I am overall not a fan of the interior changes on the 25 Jettas, especially the screen sticking out of the dash. I wanted an SE without the sunroof and managed to grab the last no sunroof 24 SE on the lot. Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, it seems like probably a rare combo. So that's cool. And I hope it treats you well. And Jordan, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, hey, man, what was the downfall for the Suzuki brand? Again, I think it's just compelling product, and it's weird because they had stuff other places in the world, but I think just Suzuki was not focused on American buyer preferences. If you look at, all of the Suzukis over the years, it just so happened that Suzuki's lined up with what Americans wanted back when Suzukis were popular here. When we're talking about the Samurai and the Vitara and the Grand Vitara and those types of things, they already had in other places, so it was very easy to kind of just port over and call it good. And they also had a lot of partnerships with other brands back then. The Suzuki also, I think, made some stuff for General Motors, and there was these other kind of things going on too. But then, whenever they needed to make the investments to evolve, which is what these companies just didn't do, they just didn't evolve well. They didn't keep up. And that was the problem for the Suzuki brand is, they had like the Kizashi, which was actually, I thought, promising. It seems like they really fell apart quickly, but it seemed promising at the time. And it was just, I think a pretty good first effort for a new chapter of Suzuki. But then, they needed to follow that up with some type of Kizashi looking SUV or something, and they didn't do that. They just kind of let everything die on the vine. And I'm guessing, again, the corporate heads in Japan just ran the numbers, and maybe it wasn't worth investing in or trying to keep up with what American buyers wanted. I'm not sure, but, that's the same thing that we're seeing right now with Mitsubishi, where, we have Outlander is a great product, and that's the one that they, have done, a lot of it for American buyers, as far as making it a little larger than the other competitors and stuff. But, everything else is Mirage is ancient. At least that's actually finally going away here soon. But I mean, that's, very dated. You have, the rest of the lineup is also very dated, and everything else they just let fizzle out. Lancer fizzled out, Galant fizzled out. There's just things they could have reinvested more. They could have had a Diamante that, was competing with Sonata and stuff, and they just never bothered. And so it's just investment. That's what it comes down to. They didn't want to do it. And again, it just comes down to what made sense for them. But it's a shame. And thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat, and great question. I'm sure there's also more to that story as far as Suzuki. I don't know all the history, but that's, it's from the outside looking in is kind of the stuff that I've gathered. But Goodstick says, did you play any video games as a kid? If so, what games did you play and on what system? Yeah, I love video games as a kid. I played a ton of games. I started with a Super Nintendo. I mean, I had a cousin that had a Sega Genesis, so I played that a bunch. But I was born in 1990, so as far as the time period of the games that I had access to. So started with Super Nintendo, and my family didn't have a ton of money growing up, so I wasn't able to get like the PlayStation when it first came out in 94. I didn't get a PlayStation until I didn't get one until they went to the DualShock controller with the joysticks. So I don't know what year that was, but I got a PlayStation in it's probably like 96, 97, maybe even 98, kind of towards the later part of the PlayStation era for PS1. But Super Nintendo was my jam to start off with, and, playing Mario Kart and things like that. And then PlayStation 1, I think the game that really ignited my passion for cars initially was Gran Turismo 2. Gran Turismo 1 came out before I had a PlayStation, but my friend had it at his house, and I I would play it all the time. That was like my go-to game. I like go over to his house. I immediately like, load up Gran Turismo 1 and just start playing that. But then I was able to, with some of my allowance money when I had my PlayStation, I was able to buy Gran Turismo 2 and just, I just spent so much time on that game. I haven't saved very many of my games, but I've saved that game all these years. My copy of Gran Turismo 2 and even my my memory card there with my save games. And I don't have a PS1 anymore, or any PlayStation for that matter. I'd love to get one someday and just load up all my old stuff. That'd be a nostalgia trip. That would be a fun, if I could like go out on a limb and try like a new channel and I ever had the time to like mess around with something like that. I'll probably get around to it in 5 or 10 years if I'm still on YouTube by that point. But I would love to just be like, here's my like PlayStation 1 memory card that I haven't looked at in 30 years. Let's turn it on and see, what we got on here and, what everything looks like. That would be so fun. That's probably a really good idea. Just the time, never have the time, but I want to do that someday. Anyway, Gran Turismo 2 is entirely to thank for what got me into cars, really. Because I had Hot Wheels cars and I had a natural interest in cars. I don't know where it really came from. My grandfather was kind of into cars, but my dad was never really into cars. My other grandfather wasn't really into cars. It was just my one grandfather who I very rarely actually saw, so it must be something in the blood. But anyway, Gran Turismo 2. And then from that point, I went on from PS1 to PS2. Tons of time in Gran Turismo 3, Gran Turismo 4, especially tons of time in that. And then strangely, I jumped then, even though I love PlayStation and the Gran Turismo series. I think I might have had Gran Turismo 5, but whenever it made the jump to PS3, I didn't get a PS3. I went to Xbox 360 instead, and then I went to Forza games and Test Drive Unlimited was my jam. I loved that. That was so much fun driving around Oahu in supercars. You got to buy like the houses and all that. It's kind of before Forza Horizon days. And so I loved Test Drive Unlimited, played that a ton. And I also had non-racing games and others that I really enjoyed. But Xbox 360 was it, and then went to Xbox One, and that's the last one that I have here. And I still got my Xbox One. I've never gone up since then to any of the new stuff. So because again, just no time. So I even have like my brother-in-law bought me the Mafia game whenever they remastered it, and it's still sitting here in the package like brand new, and have never even opened it because I just don't have time to play it. So my favorite game that I gotta say, even though I love the racing games, my favorite game of all time is LA Noire. That is like, I love that game so much. So that's the greatest for me. But the racing games are certainly awesome. And Forza, I think I started with Forza 3 or 4, whichever the first one was for Xbox 360, and then went on from there. But yeah, that's kind of my whole video game history. But yeah, man, I need to get a PS1. Now that I've thought of that idea, I'm gonna like be fixated on that and just like booting up my Gran Turismo 2 and seeing what I got there. Anyway, and Antonio says, so YouTube car reviewers make a bag, huh? I mean, not as much as they used to. Like I said, it was a whole lot easier for me back in the day to make a good amount of money, doing this. But now I'm doubling, my output just to like try to keep up with like, the amount of money that I need to survive here. But it's way less than it used to be. I used to do 1 car review a week and I would comfortably make enough money to afford the Bullet. And now I do 2 car reviews a week, and lives and all these other things. And I don't make enough to afford the Bullet anymore, so that's where I'm at as far as YouTube revenue for me. Others do it, better or worse, it just comes down to the channel and how they do it. But for me, doing it the way I do it, it's not very lucrative, unfortunately, anymore. And we will see. That's why, I've talked about many times, I'm not sure how long I'll do this for. It's going to come down to, whether I can get the channel to a more profitable place or whether it starves me out and I just have to, call it quits and tap in with some other job someday. We'll see. But let me see. Antonio says Street Fighter, Super Mario, Crash Bandicoot. Oh, I loved Crash Bandicoot. That was another one of my favorites. One of my first PS1 games that I loved. Tony Hawk. Yeah, I played so much Tony Hawk. Dave Mirra BMX. Didn't get into that one as much, a little bit, but Twisted Metal. Yeah, I played a ton of that. Conker's Bad Fur Day. Never played that. Need for Speed. Yeah, Need for Speed I played a ton of. That was another. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Obviously, I had a huge Need for Speed love. I mean, that went back to the originals. I played Yeah, I didn't play the first one, but I played the second one and everyone after that pretty much. I bought every single one of them, whatever console they were on. And I've talked about this in the past, but for those who might not have heard before, I actually had a whole Need for Speed fan site that I built as a teenager in like the early 2000s that had like a running car list before the car companies or before the game companies would tell you what cars they had in the game. I would like look at every single screenshot and video that I could find. Like, okay, here's this car, this car, this car, because I was so good at identifying cars that I'd like have a running list because no one else was doing it. I'm like, well, I'm going to do this because I like making lists and I want to know what cars are going to be in the game. And they didn't tell you that. So I was like, I'm going to do this. And so I had a whole fan site. That was my first foray into online media, I guess you could say, was a fan site that I did there, and long dead now. But yeah, I think the last game I did it for was I think Need for Speed Carbon was the last one. And then after that, I think it was done. But yeah. Good stuff. And let me see. Two still speculating about who would be, I guess, in the Initial D reboot. Speaking of casting for stuff with cars, I don't know if you guys heard, but the Grand Tour, Richard Hammond just this week said that they are going to continue Grand Tour, but not with the three of them. They're going to do it with a new cast, but same kind of idea. And, so I'm sure every car YouTuber is foaming at the mouth, like hoping that they get a call from Amazon to like get offered to do the Grand Tour. Because Richard Hammond was like, we don't know who they're going to do. We have no input on that. It's not up to us. But he's basically said like his advice to Amazon is like, make sure that they're genuine car people, which I think is the biggest problem with all the Top Gear reboots and stuff is they've always like, you've had like Chris Harris, who's fantastic, but like, they've always hired on like comedians and other people who don't really know what they're talking about with cars half the time. And it shows if you're an actual enthusiast watching these shows, it's like, oh, these guys don't know what they're talking about. So like, I'm hoping that they do actually get some really good people for a new Grand Tour. Unfortunately, I haven't got any emails or calls yet, but I will patiently be sitting on the edge of my seat, staring at my phone, hoping for a call from Amazon, but I'm not holding my breath. But yeah, so stay tuned for a new Grand Tour from whoever decides to do it. I'm sure they'll probably just take the Car Trek series that Tavares and them do, since that's massively popular, and just make that the new Grand Tour. That's probably what they'll end up doing. If they were smart, that'd probably be the best way to do it anyway. But yeah, and now it'd be fun to see. But I'm looking forward to seeing how they play that. And Trent Car Guy says, do I need to give Matt a 30-second crash course on the main Initial D-cast? Yeah, two says for sure. Yeah, I just all those Initial D things are going to be completely over my head, sadly. Someday I'll get around to it too, I promise. Omar says, on the GMC topic, have they ever had a sports car like a Camaro or Corvette equivalent? If not, they should. I like the way they're differentiating their design from Chevy. I mean, GMC is only a truck brand, so they would only do trucks with GMC. So anything sporty truck wise, it was fair game for GMC, but they're mostly about just the luxury thing anyway. So we won't see any kind of Camaros or Corvettes, unfortunately. That'd be fun. Although never say never. If maybe they do a lifted version or something, a Baja Rally kind of version of a Camaro or a Corvette with GMC badges. Crazier things have happened, so I wouldn't put it past GM. And sorry, I missed the other super chats here for some reason. I apologize for making everyone wait here. Two says, funny pitch, if you could ever pull it off as a joke. Matt appears on Linus Tech Tips and Linus pops up on here doing a car review, bloopers included. I don't know really anything about him. I know he's very popular. I don't watch his stuff, but I'm always up for collabs if it makes sense. That'd be fun, and I appreciate the super chat too. And Jonah, thank you for a super chat as well. He says, my mom is looking for a small daily driver. Do you prefer the Honda HR-V, Toyota Corolla Cross, hybrid preferably, or Subaru Crosstrek? I mean, if your mom wants a hybrid, if she's looking for that better fuel economy or the extra punch, then Corolla Cross hybrid is great. I mean, that's if it were, I mean, it comes down to, again, money and other things as far as what you're looking for particularly. But if you gave me the option of those three, pricing being even and everything else, I go for the Corolla Cross hybrid because it's the most power, the most efficient. It's not the nicest. I think the HR-V has a nicer interior. Crosstrek is great if you want the most ground clearance, but I don't think Crosstrek has that many redeeming qualities aside from being popular. And I mean, they do package things really well, so you have a lot of space for the size of the Crosstrek, but HR-V is also very spacious. Excuse me. And so yeah, HRV for plush interior, Corolla Cross for power and efficiency, and Crosstrek for, I guess, probably cheapest price tag most likely, and just kind of, this Subaru-ness that people seem to really find irresistible for some reason. Even though I don't see the appeal that much myself these days, but I mean they're very popular, especially around here. Everyone has them. My parents have a Crosstrek. My mother-in-law has a Crosstrek. Yeah, so many people around me. My parents actually have two Subarus. The Crosstrek's one of them. But yeah, I mean, everyone around here's got Crosstreks, so it's a very popular car for sure. So hopefully that helps you a little bit, but yeah, if it were up to me, I prefer the Corolla Cross Hybrid. So hopefully that helps. And yeah, feel free if you have any follow-up questions. I see Jonas also, you do have a few follow-up things. They said they tried, Top Gear. And yeah, so it says, we're worried about the Toyota markups and availability with the Corolla Cross. I don't think it should be too bad. I mean, certainly some dealers are worse than others. So yeah, it comes down to exactly what your scenario is. But if there's no markups and you can get a decent deal on it, Corolla Cross, yeah, would still be the best one. But I mean, yeah, that's the problem, is if Toyota dealers are being tough, or you don't have a lot of inventory, then I can understand going for one of the easier ones to get, because especially the Crosstreks are everywhere. They're all over the place. At least around here, again, you can get one in every color of the rainbow on the lot, like right there, buy it that day, and have it in every trim you want, every option you want. They have a ton of stock usually. HRV should be pretty well stocked too. So, if one of those two is a better deal, again, by all means, I can understand that component of it. But from an objective, like which is the best one, Corolla Cross Hybrid would be my pick. But I can totally understand, other things come into play there. Let me see. And thank you again, Jenna, for the super chat. And again, I'll keep an eye out if you have any other follow-up questions as well. Let me see. So where were we? So yeah, so Vishal says, I saw a beige color 2000s Cavalier today. I did a double take. Nice. My fun spot just that I saw today was I saw two Fiat 124 Abarths, which I don't see too often. And I'm glad that they're still out there and people are enjoying them. I'm hoping that's a car I've been hoping would like depreciate faster than a Miata. Since it is, kind of a Miata underneath, but, kind of not as far as the engine and stuff. I always love those, and I wish they're super cheap, but unfortunately they seem like they're holding their value pretty well, surprisingly. They kind of dropped off fast and they kind of held steady since then, but yeah, that was my spot of the day. He says it was insanely clean, which is also impressive. Yeah, that's not the case for most Cavaliers out there. And TFIPW says, cool seats make me feel like I pissed myself. Some of them do, for sure, especially like the Mustang, since it's only super cold on the bottom and not on the back. That's a common complaint with Mustangs, is that, yeah, they have that feeling. Others, though, it is just like an even cooling, especially, again, if the back is also getting nice and cold, it just kind of gets you cold all over, and it's just a nice kind of refreshing feel if it's done well. But again, that's rare, unfortunately, with most vehicles struggling to do that well. And Danny says, I hope I can find a good first car with whatever money I have, and maybe I find cool for the money I have. Some of my friends said 8th gen Civic Si, but I'll have to teach myself to drive stick. Well, those Civic Si's are very easy to learn manual transmission on. I believe 8th gen is the last VTEC one right before they went for the turbo, if I remember correctly. But SIs are very easy to learn on, so I'd recommend that'd be a great first car if you want to learn manual, and a great first car in general. So I agree with that. Let me see. Two says Randy Popes is the old guy, God hand from stage 5. Okay, so I think this is more initial D talk, maybe. I see Juan's also asking, where's the wifey? She's not going to join tonight, but she did join last week. So if you missed last week's live stream, definitely check that out. After this one's over, they're always available as like a regular video after the fact. You can go watch last week's. It's in the playlist here of live streams, and you can hear all of her thoughts. She came on, I think, like 30 minutes or so in, and you can hear the most recent live stream there with Beth. Danny says, and only 2 people know how to drive stick in my family, so it's hard to learn when the only person who knows it well is my uncle in Washington State. Well, honestly, I even did a video on how to drive manual a while back, a long, long time ago, but there's probably newer, better videos on that as well. But, it's something that's easy to teach yourself. As long as you have access to a manual transmission car, and you can also just not have access and just learn the basics, obviously, just knowing what to do. And then once you're in the car, every car is different with the catch points, and it's something you got to feel out anyway. So, it's not a big deal. As long as you know how to do it, from a mentality standpoint, the rest should come with practice. So I wouldn't worry too much. It's not too hard to learn. If it's something you want to do, go for it. It's worth it. It's so fun to have a manual. So I wholeheartedly support that. Go for it. And Car says, my first car was an 86 Subaru GL sedan with front wheel drive and 90 horsepower. I learned so much on that car: timing belts, front brakes, struts, and more. It was also called the Leone, and the turbo was in the 86 Safari Rally. Nice. Yeah. The turbo versions are really cool. I mean, all those, there was the XT6 back then. And then it was just the XT, right? And then they went to the XT6, or maybe it was the other way around. I don't remember, but all those are so cool. The giant turbo graphics on the sides, and obviously again, yours was a little less, sporty there, but yeah, fun times. I would love to, again, time. If I can clone myself, I would have the second Matt Moran go around. I guess according to the second Matt Moran's in the basement claiming to be Super Oaks fan. But if I ever could clone myself, I would love to have a whole other second channel of just all the old stuff and just going back and doing all that for fun. Let me see. Sorry, I missed the other super chats here. It's not like, let me know super quick when these come through. So Lemon Tea, thank you so much for your first super chat. I really appreciate that. They say, I'm 25 and looking for my first manual fun car, especially with electrics taking over. Thoughts on the WRX Elantra and SI GR86 in New England, and have a WRX soft spot? Well, if you're looking for, I don't know if it's going to be a daily driver, or if it's just if you're saying it's just a fun car. I don't know if you mean like a fun car in general, or just like a dedicated fun car. But if, you need something with all-wheel drive, being in New England, WRX, obviously, end of story. And they're really a good car. I mean, especially if you have a soft spot for them, it's hard to argue against it. Especially, I would just say my advice for WRX, if you're going to get one, is go for one of the lowest trims. Either go for the actual base or go for a premium. Don't go beyond that, because the limited is a waste of money, in my opinion, because you get the leather / Alcantara seats and not much else. It's not really, the headlights are a little bit nicer, but you still get LED headlights as standard either way. So I don't think limited's worth it. I don't think any of the other, TR, and we'll see about TS. If you want the ultimate like STI thing without STI power, TS is cool, I'm sure. But I think the real value of the WRX is the base ones. The fact you can get for 30 grand or so, manual, 271 horsepower and all-wheel drive, it's a really good value. So if that's your, reality and what you're working with there is a snow daily driver, obviously that's going to be the best choice. I mean, you can do the others in the snow, with snow tires, especially. I mean, I daily drove my BRZ in the snow with, Blizzaks on it, and it got around fine. Actually, I didn't have Blizzaks. It was the Dunlop Winter Sport M3s back then. But regardless, you can do it. Anything with a limited slip diff with snow tires, you're mostly going to be okay, as long as you're not starting on hills all the time and stuff. But, I mean, if the all-wheel drive thing isn't a consideration for you, and we ignore your WRX soft spot there, just on an objective level, the most fun of those is going to be the one that's the real sports car, the GR86. And if it were my money and I didn't have to worry about driving in snow or anything like that, and I just wanted a fun manual car, GR86 is going to be the most fun all around. Now, it's not the best manual. I would say the best manual goes to the SI there in that group. But GR86, I would say, is actually the second. It's very fantastic, just with a feel and all that still. I'm excited to also try the revisions for 25 here, where they're saying it's going to be a little easier to rev match downshifts, which is my main complaint with those GR86 and BRZ. So yeah, that's kind of, I'd say GR86 if you don't care about snow. If you do care about snow, WRX. The others are fantastic as well, though, for sure. It just comes down to, again, what you're looking for exactly. Elantra N is the most fun from a theatric standpoint with the exhaust, the gauges inside and all the customization. You can do the adaptive dampers, which you don't get in SI or any of those others out there, in that competitive set. So Elantra N is also fantastic. I just was praising it a few months ago, and I did my review on that too. SI also is great, especially if you want fantastic fuel economy. That one's going to have the best fuel economy of the bunch, be the easiest to live with as far as, I mean, I think ride quality is going to be pretty similar to Elantra N. Elantra N might actually be slightly better with the adaptive dampers and that, but SI is just Honda just does such a good job with the steering inputs. The steering just feels great. The shifter feels great. The throttle response, everything. And I was really just again impressed this week with this Civic Hybrid that I have right now too. Just like, I've reviewed all the other, compact sedans. Then I get into a Civic and it's like, man, like Honda just like, it is a cut above the rest still, I think, because like even just like the window switches and things like that feel nicer, but like just steering it is just better than all the others. It's so much weightier, but not in an annoying way. It just feels good. Everything is just I don't know. Honda has this secret sauce with the way their cars feel. At least to me, it really jives with me. So sorry, this is not helping you at all because they all have really good qualities. But if we're just looking, most fun you can get with a manual transmission in that set, WRX for snow, G86 without snow. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. And thanks again for the first super chat too. I really appreciate that. And I'll keep an eye out if you have any other follow-up questions as well. And two, thank you for another very generous super chat. He says, this is the comment that will get Truck and Car Guy to throw me back into the basement early. A lowered Corolla Cross is the Corolla wagon we need. Yes, I keep telling my girlfriend 4 inches matters. Crap, here he comes. Good night. That's funny. Thanks too for keeping us laughing. I would love to see actually a slammed Corolla, not like stance because I'm not in love with stance stuff, but like a lowered Corolla Cross, absolutely Corolla wagon. I agree. And I feel like Toyota should do that for SEMA or something. Someone needs to do that. If someone hasn't lowered a Corolla Cross yet, someone needs to get on that because I'd love to see that. That's a great idea for sure. And especially with the hybrid version, you got almost 200 horsepower. That's a fun little wagon. I agree that, yeah. Especially if you can like paint over the cladding maybe on the Corolla Cross, make it a little more street looking. That would be cool. I think it's a great idea too. Very good idea. And I will be seeing Toyota at some point later this year, and I will maybe try and say, hey, have you guys thought about doing this for a SEMA build and see what they say? Jordan, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, is the Mach-E capable of charging another EV? It is not. Unfortunately, it doesn't do any of that. I can't even like plug in, a coffee maker or anything. It doesn't do vehicle to load, I think is what it's called. Yeah, it doesn't do any of that, unfortunately. I think the next gen, that's something they're probably planning. But as of right now, no capability to do that. It's one of the few EVs that can't do that anymore. Most of the new ones can. And Hyper Shadow, thank you so much for being a member for 4 months here. They say Matt Maran Motoring on this channel, Mateus Marinellius Beige Car, and Bronze Accents Reviews on the second channel. Glad to be a 4-month member. I appreciate that. And happy to have you in here, Hyper Shadow. And Linda, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate the generosity. Happy to see Blaze get one there, Little Rockstar RS, and a few others I recognize there as well. And so, thanks so much, Linda, for your generosity. Really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else does as well. All right, getting back to other member questions here. So I will catch up on them tonight, especially since I feel bad I didn't get all the member questions done last week since, Beth was in there and we were just hanging out and having fun, getting a little more personal than, the usual car talk, but I want to make sure I answer everyone's questions here tonight. So let me see. Good Stick says, do you think the new Accord could be a spiritual successor to the Acura RL? The Accord has gotten so big that you could make that comparison. I agree. I mean, RL though was always, I'd say, a little bit even more big and soft than what Accord has become at this point, but it's not far off for sure. I'd almost argue that Accord is kind of like new TL in a way. If you're wanting something a little simpler than TLX, which has, the all-wheel drive and a little bit more luxurious, a little bit bigger these days, I think that's kind of how I view Accord, as almost like a budget Acura in many ways, because it is so nice inside. But yeah, RL, it's amazing RL lasted as long as it did, considering how few of those things they sold here in the States. And Two says, who's Izuki? Is James from Car Throttle. Gotcha. Okay. I honestly, I don't even like watch Car Throttle. So, I'm out of the loop on all that stuff. And Brian says, hey man, if Beth and yourself were to move to another country where car culture is important, where would you go? That's a very good question, Brian. I mean, it seems like I've seen car culture is really cool in honestly a lot of parts of the world. I mean, I think anywhere you go in the world, there's a car culture, and I think they're all cool in their own ways. They've obviously their own unique things, and whether it's restrictions they're working around or just differences that of preference and stuff. It's just really cool to see the creativity of various car cultures around the world. As far as if we were to move to another country or car cultures, I mean, that's tough because I honestly, as sad as it is to say, I don't like if I were to move to another country, I wouldn't be considering the car culture that much because again, I think it's really good in most places where I would ever consider moving anyway. Um, I think I would probably the UK is a top spot. I think we went to the UK back in 2018 and loved it. Again, I think it's a lot of the Top Gear influence, and there's a lot of British TV shows we like and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say probably UK would be the best as far as that goes. I mean, Canada's beautiful as well. It'd be a good kind of first step too if we weren't ready to leave North America. But I think UK is really cool, and again, any place that again appreciates small cars, especially, I would jive very well with that. So even like Italy, something like that, I could see myself, getting along pretty well there too. I'd love Japan though. It's just the language barrier. I don't, unfortunately. I always like wanted to learn Japanese, and I never got around to it either. There's something I should have. I took French in college because it was easy because I had already taken French in high school, but one of my regrets, I wish I would have taken Japanese in college instead because I think it would have been probably honestly better for my career here as well as a reviewer, because if I actually ever get to Japan someday, I'd be able to get around without looking like an idiot. But I think Japan is probably, to me, at least, maybe it's just the Tokyo Drift talking and stuff, but I mean, just for everything I've seen, it genuinely seems like Japan has an amazing car culture. And I would love to experience that. And so if I were to move and I didn't have to worry about, language barrier, and even with that, I think that's something I could overcome because it'd be worth it because just the car culture is amazing. And as a JDM fanboy in so many ways, like it would just be like dragging my jaw on the ground everywhere I went, if I was over there. So I'd say probably UK if I'm going the easy route. If I want to take on a little bit of a challenge, I think Japan would be for sure where I would go. Amazing car culture, it seems. And great question, Brian. Thanks so much for asking that. Vishal says, I was born in 2000, so I grew up in the Wii era. Well, I apologize. I don't know. Wii is definitely maybe you have better memories of it than I do, but for me, Wii was not a high point in Nintendo history personally. I mean, it was cool and there's some fun stuff for sure, but I never loved the Wii, honestly. And maybe that's controversial to say. Hopefully no one's throwing tomatoes at me virtually here. But Danny says, I saw on Reddit a few months ago someone got over 500,000 miles on a Gen 1 Chevy Volt. It's great to see that thing still going. Yeah, they seem like they do really well. Modern cars in general are really, really pretty solid and reliable. So that's impressive. I hadn't heard about that. A Volt going 500,000. That's cool. TFI PW says 95, grew up on SNES, N64, then we turned into an Xbox family. Nice. Yeah, I did have an N64 at one point as well. And actually, my one friend had N64, and that's where I played, countless hours of GoldenEye and Super Smash Brothers, and all that stuff. But actually, funny story about N64. It'll be quick. In my neighborhood, this was probably like 2002, 2003. So definitely later for N64. This was, past the prime of N64. But there was, and I kid you not, I don't know how this happened. It almost feels like a dream, but it was very much real. I was riding my bike one day, and there was a N64 box sitting in the top of someone's trash can that was put out for trash day in the neighborhood. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm like, yeah, are they throwing away an N64? Because it was like a pristine box. And I go over and peek, and it's a new in the box N64, brand new, everything is still perfectly wrapped up and everything. And it was in the trash. So I'm like, I'm taking this. So I put it on hobbled along with my bike in this N64 box back to my house and unwrapped it. And I had an N64. I had a brand new N64. And this, again, 2003. So I'm not super new or anything, but it was a new in-box N64 that I found in the trash. don't know how that makes any sense, why anyone ever did that, unless it was like out of spite or something. But yeah, I got a free N64, like 2003, 2004. Anyway, TFI says, I bought a PS1 at a thrift store in 2013, so you might find one at Goodwill. Okay, well, that's good to know, because it seems like they're really going up in price these days, but I will, yeah, and my father-in-law, or my in-laws in general, they love thrifting, so maybe I will tell them to keep an eye out for PS1. Thanks for the heads up on that. I didn't know that they were even there. I figured every single one of them was at the exchange or on eBay at this point, but that's great. And let me see, Danny says, my family has an original Xbox 2003 still in the box, never opened, and it's buried somewhere in my parents' crap. And it was my mom's Christmas gift to my dad when there was our first Christmas together in 2003. Wow. Well, yeah, keep that sealed in the box because that could be worth some good money, maybe even already right now, but certainly give it another decade, and that could be some valuable stuff there. That's cool. TFIPW says Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown drops this Thursday. Thanks for a reminder on that. I've been seeing stuff about that because I think I liked their page on Facebook or something. So I've been seeing some of the snippets. People seem like not super in love with the demo from the quick skim of the comments that I saw, but yeah, I'm like kind of excited about that. Again, I don't have time, unfortunately. I don't even know, is it on Xbox One or is it only for the new systems? I don't know, but I'd like to try that. That'd be fun. Maybe I'll put it on my Christmas list and stare at the box and play it in 5 years or something. But Dragon Car Guy says Underground 2 is what mainly got me into cars. I played through that so many times. I basically memorized the entire map. Yeah, Underground 2 was one of my favorites. I remember my little teenage mind being blown whenever they announced the like open world, which was not a thing for car games back then. I was like, I can drive anywhere I want in my car that's modified any way I want it to be modified. And I was so excited. And yeah, that was when I was doing my fan site. So I was like on top of all the news and stuff. And I don't know how, I think it was just on eBay. Someone was selling a demo disc that was like supposed to go to like a GameStop or something. This is before you could like easily get demos, obviously online or anything like that. But I bought the demo disc and I still have it over there. An original Need for Speed Underground 2 demo disc that I've saved all these years. And I mean, I remember I was like, man, I'm playing the game before everyone else. This is awesome. And I was like playing the demo over and over and over again. And it was so fun. Underground 2 was so good. Such a good game. Oh man, good times. I'm so nostalgic. It's crazy. But yeah, I could do an entire new second channel of just me playing video games. And that would be so fun if it actually could make money, because then I could actually like do something that's a little less stressful than car reviews and just have a good old time reliving the 90s and early 2000s, and that'd be great. Good Six says he pre-ordered Solar Crown. Nice. Well, I hope if you guys are actually going to be buying it here this week, then on next week's live, please let me know how it is. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So definitely stop by next week if you can and let me know. Dom's checking in. Thanks for stopping by, Dom. Hope you're doing well. And let me see. Good Stick says, I played Forza Motorsport 4 in 2011. They had Jeremy Clarkson narrate on the Auto Vista mode. It was an incredible collaboration. I remember that. Yeah, I was super excited about that as well, because I did play Forza 4. That was great. Yeah, I remember that. Good times. Oh, man. Such a cool combo. And Linda says, better late than never. I appreciate you stopping by, Linda. That's awesome, and hope you're doing well. Car says, I got into racing video games in the early 90s with my Sega Genesis and my favorite F1 game rental. Also rented a motorcycle racing game. About 10 years later, I really enjoyed Gran Turismo 3. Yeah, Gran Turismo 3 was great too. I enjoyed that. And yeah, I remember again, like playing that on, that was in the days when you could like go to the mall and just like play the demos at GameStop over and over, because again, it wasn't out yet. And so like I was like, Mom, like Gran Turismo 3 is coming out soon, I gotta go to the GameStop and play. And I would just like sit there, I don't know, probably way longer than was socially acceptable, but just sitting there playing the Gran Turismo 3 demo and just being obsessed with it. So much fun back in the day. Let me see. Decepticon Stinger says, on the topic of muscle cars, I saw a 1970 Dodge Coronet RT convertible in green at a local car show. Super rare. That's awesome. Yeah, Coronets, you don't see those too often. That's a very nice spot. There's a guy in my neighborhood here that has like a 66 or 67 Charger. It's not a 68. But he's got a Dodge Charger RT, and it's so cool. He drives it like at least once a week. I always see him out in it, and I'm like, nice. He's actually enjoying it, and he loves that thing. It's great. And Dylan says, I bought a junkyard Civic in the early 2010s for $250 to teach myself manual. Ran like crap, but it got the job done. That's a great idea. I recommend that for anyone. If you can find an old manual, that's the best way to learn if you don't want to feel bad about, messing up your first manual car. Beat on something like that, and then you're good. Let me see. Trunk Car Guy says he doesn't have the keys to the basement. Chad says, would love to see you free range tour Jay Leno's garage with his permission, of course. That would be fun. I'd love to do that, of course. That'd be amazing. Two's calling me a GR shill. Has to happen at least once in the live, right? So I appreciate it too. TFI saying Corolla Cross Slam equals Matrix. True, it kind of does. I didn't make that connection. Very good point, TFI. That's awesome. Yeah, another car that needs to come back. Danny says, good night. I got school tomorrow, and high school for me being a junior starts at 7:50 in the morning. Yay. I love life in New Jersey, but not the high school starting this early. But what can I do? Well, yeah, totally understand. And thanks for stopping by, Danny. Hope you have a good week here. And I see also Lemon Tea. Apologies, I missed your other super chat here. Sorry for making you wait here again. He says, what about the handling and steering? WRX too light. No, I mean, WRX steering is a little lighter. That's a little bit of a personal preference thing. Personally, I don't find WRX steering to be bad. I think it's fine. Handling is great with the new WRXs. They're flat. They're pretty good. The only thing that throws me off a little bit with WRX is you sit up pretty high in it compared to the others. I mean, SI, you feel like you're way lower. Same thing with Elantra N, especially with the sport seats in the Elantra N. That's even a little bit lower than Civic Si. So like WRX, you're like here. SI, you're like here. Elantra N, you're here. And then GR86, you're like here. So like that's also a personal preference thing as far as how high up you want to feel. But like WRX is borderline, almost feels like you're in a crossover from a seating standpoint. Again, it's all personal preference. Definitely sit in whichever ones you can sit in and, get a feel for it if possible. But as far as like the others quickly, just as far as steering and handling goes, GR86 is going to be the best there. It's just, again, the vehicle's just got the best steering because it doesn't have to drive the front wheels like the others, so you have just really good steering on the GR86, and the weight's really good in that as well. SI weight is really pretty good too, and Honda does fantastic steering, so I think that's also a high point. Elantra N, though, is very good, but I would have to say between all four, WRX and Elantra N are probably close to the bottom. They're kind of maybe tied for last place there in what is, again, a very good group of cars. So last place is not a bad place. It's still very good handling. Elantra N, just to me, it's not bad. I feel like the weight, even though you can adjust that stuff in the, I just feel like Elantra N, my problem is that the steering feels a tiny bit rubbery at times, and the shifter feels a tiny bit rubbery if you're going for a manual Elantra at times. It feels more mechanical in the others, especially in the SI and the GR86, and that mechanical, like metal versus a plasticky slight feeling in the Elantra. Again, it's still really good, and I still would happily daily drive an Elantra or WRX and be fine, especially the Elantra because I like having the auto rev match, which you don't get in the WRX. But Elantra is still very good, so no knock against Elantra N whatsoever. But steering to me is definitely better in GR86 and SI. So again, make of that what you will. Hopefully that helps you a little bit there. Thanks again, Lemon Tea, for the another super chat there. You see, Jordan also says, did you ever review a Chevy Sonic? I did not. Back when those were new, I was still mostly doing sporty stuff at that point in time, and not a whole lot of love or interest in Sonics, unfortunately. So never reviewed one. I've ridden in one many times though. My one of my good friends had one when she bought it new, and rode in it a bunch, with her a couple of times there. And it was okay. Just I think my best friend's now wife who had it, and I think he said that we went to go change. I think it was the timing belt or something. It was like not very well positioned in those. That was the one annoying thing with that. But other than that, I think it was overall a decent little car for them, especially for the price tag. But I've never reviewed one myself or even driven one for that matter. So, but thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat. And let me see. Last couple of questions here. I know we're over the 2-hour mark, and then I will sign off. But Hyper Shadow says, Matt, favorite racing video game from any system, new or old? I love Diddy Kong Racing. I'm a huge N64 fan. Also, Midnight Club 3, Need for Speed Underground 2. Also, Duolingo for language learning works. I have done Duolingo. I actually did Duolingo to freshen up on my French whenever we went to Paris back in 2019. So yeah, Duolingo, I should, yeah, that's something if I ever get a little bit of free time, just, a couple minutes every day, just to slowly learn Japanese. That could be a good way to do it. You're right. As far as favorite racing game, oh man, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's just the nostalgia talking or what, but I mean, I'd probably actually say probably Need for Speed Most Wanted, maybe. Underground 2 is a close second, though. Also, I really loved Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, which I believe was PlayStation 1 still, if I remember correctly. Or no, I think it was the first one on PS2, maybe. Regardless, that one I loved especially because that was the first video game I believe to have the Lamborghini Murcielago in it, which is still kind of like, that was my poster car growing up, was the Murcielago. And so that was the first game I could drive it in, and so that was why I really love that one. So those are probably my top ones. I mean, but also, Test Drive Unlimited was really high up there too. I had a lot of fun times playing that. So that's, yeah, it's hard to say just one, but those are the top ones for sure. Because for me, like N64, I never gotten any racing games on there because I found it hard to be precise with the joystick on N64 with racing. For me personally, it was really good for GoldenEye and stuff like that and Super Smash Brothers, but not for like other things, unfortunately, for me at least. I just didn't have a lot of experience with N64, honestly, but yeah, and Super Nintendo wasn't super precise either, but I did play some racing games on there too. But yeah, it's got to be some of those. Also, he says, I had no idea anyone was talking about video games, and here I am asking about this Hive Mind. Yeah, it's great. I think, a lot of us, again, I'm assuming a lot of you are probably, similar age to me. I see 87. I'm guessing maybe is your birth year there. So you're, 3 years older than me, but that same kind of age growing up, I don't know. Again, I'm sure every generation thinks their childhood years are like, the best ever, but I really feel like the 90s were a real high point in civilization in a lot of ways. Obviously not perfect. Lots of other, things that weren't great, but man, just such a good time. And early 2000s too, I have to say, just at least again, growing up with that rose tinted glasses view, I just feel like such fun times. And so it's understandable why we're all nostalgic about it, especially these days with the world getting crazier by the day. I think it's a whole lot easier to be nostalgic than it was, back when things were a little less crazy. But anyway, Good Stick says, seeing what people did in Underground 2 in modern times wouldn't be a good look. Everything had insane body kits and sound systems in the trunk. Peak Too Fast, Too Furious, and Pimp My Ride vibes. I know, and it's it's just so good. Man, I appreciate the nostalgia trip tonight, guys. It's been really fun, and so yeah, maybe one of these days, man. I just need to learn how to like live stream more stuff, and maybe if you guys would be cool with like a non Q&A or we just kind of casually chat. One of these days I'll track down a PS1 and maybe even a PS2, and we can just play some of these old games and just all reminisce. And maybe I can, while I'm waiting for the loading screens and stuff, I can read off a few comments of others' stories from their days, playing these games. It'd be so fun. I think there's a few people that have tried to do that and haven't been super successful with streaming old racing games, but I'd do it again just for fun if you guys were up for something like that someday too. But again, I gotta get the consoles and stuff, so it won't happen anytime soon, but maybe that could be a little goal for 2025. That could be fun. And Hyper Shadow says, good night, everyone. Get your 8 hours of sleep and sweet and weird N64 dreams to you all. Also, here's some broccoli. Appreciate that, Hyper. And Stratus says GTA 6 should have some nice racing modes when it comes out. Nice. Yeah, that's GTA games have always been fun too. Zachary says, wait, it was video game night and I was busy doing homework. Nice. Sorry about that, Zach, but Yeah, definitely go back in and rewatch if you have the time and want to. But yeah, definitely love the nostalgia. Hyper Shadow says nostalgia nights underground with Matt Moran. There we go. That sounds great. Man, I'll try and do something like that someday. I promise. And TFIPW says, good night, everyone. Be kind. Please rewind. I love it. Off the Blockbuster. Man, all the nostalgia hit me right in the feels. I love it. And good Trent Cargo says, good week, everyone, as well. Yeah, I hope everyone has a great week here. Apologies for anyone's questions I couldn't get to. I see Rael's. I'll end with his here. He says, just wanted to say, after watching many GR86 reviews, I could not agree with your suggestion more in your review to get the base model. I now have a 24 GR86 manual transmission, enjoying it a lot. That's awesome. I'm so happy the videos helped you out there. Yeah, thanks so much for the comment. I really appreciate that. And I hope the GR86 treats you well. And I'm jealous. I'd love to pick one up myself someday. So I'll live vicariously through you in the meantime. So hope you enjoy it to the fullest. And yeah, thanks so much for stopping by. And all right, so yeah, let's see, everyone else saying good night here. So yeah, have a great night, everyone, and a great week here. And stay tuned for, like I said, Lexus UX review tomorrow and some more fun stuff, especially coming later this month. If you haven't seen the new member schedule, or if you're not a member, stay tuned. I'm going to be switching it up a little bit here towards the end of the month. I think it's going to be really fun. So anyway, stay tuned for that. Thank you all very much for hanging out and watching tonight, and have a great week. Take care.